Live Formula One.
Hello, good morning to you. Welcome to live coverage of round 3 of the Formula One World Championship. Coming to you from Japan, 2 races down into this new era of the sport, and we've barely had any time to breathe. Waiting for George Russell, who wins the Australian Grand Prix and takes the first victory of the 2026 Formula One season.
Very nice, very nice. I like this car, I like this engine.
This new era of racing, do we like it?
I want to see drama, I want to see battles for the lead. Yes, some could say it was a little bit artificial, but I was okay with that.
Oh, and so close into turn 2.
Hamilton and Leclerc, side by side still. It's corner after corner. It's side by side for the 2 Ferraris.
That was proper wheel-to-wheel racing, and it was 2 of the best drivers in Formula One really going at it, giving each other true respect. But there's another level to the racing generally in Formula One at the moment. Fernando Alonso, who called it today the Battery World Championship.
Racing-wise, it's been really, really fun.
The checkered flag is waiting, and it's a first Grand Prix victory for Kimi Antonelli in Formula One.
It's been crazy, but managed to recharge, give it the batteries and do the preparation ahead of this weekend.
But it's pole position for Kimi Antonelli, the 19-year-old Italian, does it back-to-back poles. From Australia to China and now Japan, with a week off in the middle, we pay our yearly visit to the land of the rising sun for the Japanese Grand Prix. Ahead of us, 53 laps of racing with the 19-year-old Italian Kimi Antonelli following up his debut pole position in Formula One a couple of weeks ago, with pole again for today's race. George Russell makes it a Mercedes front row lockout. Can anyone give them a headache this afternoon? We'll find out with lights out in a little over half an hour's time, which is a slight change to the schedule because the start has been delayed by 10 minutes. The formation lap will get going at 2:10 local time. That's due to ongoing barrier repairs at turn 12 after an incident in a support category earlier. So the pit lane has actually only just opened a couple of minutes ago, and now cars are able to take to the track. The sound you can hear is Kimi Antonelli on the reconnaissance lap on his way to the grid. So a little behind schedule here, but never fear, we're going to guide you through every step of the way. From the commentary box is myself, Harry Benjamin, but keeping her ear to the ground for us, down on the ground, soaking up all that Suzuka atmosphere. Let's say good morning for the first time to Jenny Gao.
Konnichiwa, Harry Benjamin. This is a stunning circuit. Suzuka is a heartland, a homeland for racing in this part of the world, and the fans have turned out in their droves. 110,000 fans have packed into the Suzuka grandstands. There's not an empty seat in the house, and the fans here are the most colourful wherever we go. These embrace F1. Everyone, to a man, woman and child, is in some sort of merchandise. And the majority, there's a lot of Honda for obvious reasons, so that's Aston Martin. There's also Ferrari, there's quite a lot of McLaren, and obviously the link with Red Bull for the last decade or two with a Honda-powered engine, not anymore, is strong as well. So lots of different people supporting lots of different teams, but it just makes you feel alive when you come to Suzuka. Despite the jet lag, it makes you feel alive.
It certainly does. And the packed out grandstands every single year make it all worthwhile. Alongside me in the commentary box, it's British racing driver Alice Powell. I mean, Alice, what is it about this circuit? Suzuka, it's people say the word iconic far too much, but that is the case for Suzuka.
It is old school, no room for error. Go through the first sector, you're going up the hill, then down the Degners, back down, then up again. A challenging circuit physically for the drivers, particularly through the likes of the Degners, through Spoon. Maybe not so much with the new regulations. races and with the harvesting of energy that they have to do. But it's just a challenge, a great challenge, and that's what drivers like, is a challenge.
They certainly do. Coming into round 3 this weekend, let's bring you up to speed with how the standings look. George Russell with a win in Australia and taking the sprint win in China leads the way, 51 points. He's 7 clear of his teammate Kimi Antonelli, who made his Grand Prix victory debut last time out in China. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton followed behind by 3 points adrift. Charles Leclerc ahead of Lewis Hamilton, with Oliver Bearman rounding out the top 5. Lando Norris, the reigning world champion, sits in 6th position with just 15 points to his name. Max Verstappen is actually down in 8th in the championship, having retired last time out, and only scored points in Australia with a 6th place finish. Over in the constructors' standings, Mercedes lead the way, 98 points to their name. They're 31 clear of Ferrari. Then it's McLaren, Haas and Red Bull, the top 5. Racing Bulls are in 6th ahead of Alpine, with Audi and Williams the top 9. They have all scored points. Cadillac, the newest team on the block, sit in 10th. No points scored yet, and they are ahead though, based on their results, of Aston Martin, who sit 11th and last in the constructors' standings. And their days made even worse this weekend, because they will line up on the back row of the grid too. We'll run down all the stories that have been developing across the weekend, but I think, Alice, we need to start with the man that has been setting the timesheets alight pretty much from the start of the weekend. Kimi Antonelli, I don't want to say was China a breakthrough for Kimi Antonelli, because he's had some great results already and he's shown his speed, but it's certainly given him some sort of renewed confidence.
It has, and he actually mentioned yesterday, and I totally agree with him, that this was a much more challenging pole and felt a little bit more like a pole position. It was a straight fight with George Russell. Obviously out in China, George had an issue on the first run, so he didn't really get a feel for the car in that run, and then was kind of a little bit on the back foot for his second run, whereas this one, it was a straight fight. They both had no issues. George said that his car was struggling with the handling. He just said it felt totally different to what he had in free practice 3. But Antonelli doesn't mind. He was the only driver to dip into the 128s, 3/10 clear of his teammate. And, you know, maybe George Russell feeling, hang on, this challenge is going to be more difficult than I expected. But obviously Mercedes coming into this year were and are the favourites, still are. But Antonelli, he's really taking it to George Russell.
He certainly has done this weekend. George Russell wasn't feeling completely comfortable in qualifying. We'll talk more about that. But when you look at the stats, 8 of the last 12 Grand Prix here in Suzuka have been won from pole position. So he's in the best spot. Let's hear from our pole man, Kimi Antonelli. He's speaking with Lawrence Barretto.
Kimi, hey, congratulations on pole position, back-to-back pole positions. Did you have a good sleep last night?
Yeah, no, I had a good sleep. Obviously, it's still always a bit harder to fall asleep, when you know that you're starting on pole. But it was good. I had a good sleep, and looking forward to today.
So what's the game plan today? You've got a very fast teammate next to you. You've got some fast starting Ferraris and McLarens behind you too.
Well, trying to get a good start, and trying to lead into turn 1, because obviously it's not that easy to overtake in a track like this. So yeah, try to get to turn 1 in P1, and then trying to use the free air and trying to set the pace.
So from everything you've seen in the data on the car, have you got a car to win today?
Yeah, definitely. The car is very quick, very, very strong in qualifying and in the race. So hopefully, today we will have a really good pace, and we can just have a really nice race.
Great stuff, Kimi. Well, best of luck today. Thank you very much.
Best of luck indeed for Kimi Antonelli, who will start, Jenny, with the best view in the house. But from what we've seen over the course of the first couple of Grand Prix, Antonelli in particular in that Mercedes not always getting the best of those starts.
No, it feels a little bit like Lando Norris last year, where he just couldn't get the start nailed. And the turbo was a little bit bigger than Ferrari's, so when it comes to getting off the line, a lot of the times we've seen Ferrari just leapfrog them, but then the race unfolds and kind of gets its normal order back. But Kimi knows what he has to do. They've obviously had time in the simulator between China and here, and have practiced again, and they've practiced a lot around this track in the run-up to this race in their practice sessions. A lot of the time they do practice starts, so he'll be looking down the hill into the first turn, 330 metres. There's a headwind today, quite gusty at times as well, and as you say, he's got the best view in the house. I'm just next to his physio and Pete Boddington, his race engineer, who are huddled up together. There's a blue towel on the ground, which is where they lay all this stuff out as he gets wheeled into position, the number 12 car of Kimi Antonelli. He's got his push scooter here as well, which is a little bit of a blue detail on the black, and then he's got his helmet bag and his rucksack, which his physio carries around with drinks bottles, all sorts of towels and helpful things in there. But Kimi Antonelli gets his hands units taken out from the car, and he emerges into the sunshine here in Suzuka, steps out one leg, the other leg. They're in a kind of snazzy overalls this weekend, which is Wolf inspired, and the front wing is Wolf inspired of the car, and their boots as well, so there's an eye on each boot, and it's absolutely divine. And his helmet even features that wolf as well. I don't know if it's a dire wolf or a wolf, but either way it's very much in keeping with the one that's going to hunt and be hunted, isn't it?
Certainly is. And if you're just joining us, that's Jenny Gow on the grid, as we've got a slightly delayed start, but it sounds like the cars are being rolled on to the grid now. Formation lap will start at 10 past 2 local time, so that will be 10 past 6 in the UK. As Jenny was saying, Kimi Antonelli, all smiles, looking fairly relaxed now out of the car and chatting with his engineer Pete Boddington. George Russell, on the other hand, well, he shares the front row with him, starts second, and had a difficult time in qualifying yesterday.
Yeah, he wasn't best pleased with the handling of his car. He said he made a setup change between free practice and qualifying, and he said it just didn't help the setup of the car. He was still sort of lagging about 2/10 behind his teammate before that change in free practice 3.
Let's just head down to Jenny. She's with Zach Brown from McLaren.
I am Zach Brown, CEO of McLaren. Not too bad a view from here, is it? I know you've got the Mercedes in front of you, but this event is something special, isn't it?
This is a great race, great crowd. We had a good result here last year. Hopefully we can repeat that. I think the Mercedes are definitely in a league of their own, but let's see, anything can happen.
Are you a bit twitchy about reliability? We've had some incidents so far. Oscar hasn't really taken a lap of the race out.
No, so we're making progress. Reliability, given what we've been through so far, is definitely a concern, but I think we put the car together as well as possible, and hopefully everything sees us to the end and we give our drivers a chance to fight for some podium positions.
Just tell us, can you get on top of Mercedes one way or another in this race? You've got Oscar starting P3, Lando right behind him, P5. What can you do that's clever that might challenge them?
I think on outright pace, we got to be realistic right now. They're faster than us, so we got to beat them on strategy, or something strategy or safety car. But on an outright pace, they've got everyone covered.
Okay, thanks, Zach. Good luck.
CEO of McLaren, Zach Brown there, speaking with Jenny on the grid. We'll talk more McLaren. Let's just come back to George Russell, because Alice, as you were alluding to there, made a small adjustment on his rear suspension before qualifying, which was supposedly very minor, but enough to really upset his balance.
And that's what can happen with even with small changes. It can really upset the balance, and I have to be honest, it didn't look great on the onboard compared to Antonelli. Of course, driver inputs can have a big say, but yeah, he was snaking through the chicane. That was one of his big weak areas with the car yesterday in qualifying. He just couldn't get the rear to settle and to sit down, and that helped towards him not being able to really, I would say, challenge Kimi Antonelli.
Well, let's hear what George Russell has to say ahead of this morning's race. He's talking to Lawrence Barretto.
Well, George, quality was a real pain for you yesterday, but you still stuck it on the front row. Firstly, have you got any idea what went wrong yesterday?
Yeah, we do. We definitely know sort of what went wrong.
unfortunately not really able to make any changes for today, but got some ideas how I can drive around it, make some adjustments with the front wing. So I think it'll be slightly easier, I hope, in the race where you've got more laps to be able to sort of adjust your driving style, whereas obviously quali is 1 lap break, 1 lap break. So abnormal, but it's a new day today.
I felt like you did a pretty good job driving around it as qualified progressed yesterday. I know it's a longer race today, but what's it going to take to win out there today?
Well, I think the race start's going to be crucial, to be honest, as it has been always. It is a bit of a challenging track to overtake. With these new regs, it'll be interesting. I don't think it'll be quite as dicey as we saw in the first 2 races. However, obviously with Lewis in P4, with Charles in P4, they're pretty fast off the line. So I hope to try and get into the lead, but we know Ferrari are quick.
And what about the threat of the McLarens as well? Because obviously earlier in the weekend they showed good pace.
Yeah, McLarens have been really strong, and that's been a bit of a surprise. And obviously we've got the same power unit, so we'll try and hold the position. I think we should have the pace advantage over them in the race, but if they make a good start and get ahead of us, they'll probably make our life difficult.
Okay, so just one final word for the fans here. The support is always incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always amazing. Coming to Japan, obviously China as well, was really amazing. So yeah, huge thanks to everyone supporting us.
George Russell, who starts second ahead of today's race. Let's head back down to Jenny, who's with Mercedes Deputy Team Principal Bradley Lord.
I am, Bradley. You're starting on pole and your second car's right beside Kimi. How confident do you feel going into this race? It feels like Mercedes have an advantage.
Yeah, I think we're pretty confident on the race pace, but this is Suzuka. Overtaking's never easy. Track position is king, and we haven't made it out of the first couple of corners in the lead, even though we've started from the front row in every race start so far this season. So that's job number 1, try and retain the lead and then see what we can do from there.
Certainly Ferrari seem to have a really good start, and one is positioned directly behind George Russell. That's not ideal, I would say.
No, not ideal. He snuck ahead of Lando at the last lap in qualifying by about 4,000. So, that's definitely something to watch, and we'll need to see how it unfolds and then take it from there.
And when it comes to the racing, there's been lots of overtakes. People either love it or hate it. But are you expecting, bearing in mind we didn't have many overtakes last year, are you expecting more overtakes this year, a more entertaining race?
I think it's been really hard to predict, to be honest. I think we are expecting a more entertaining race. We've got this sort of seesaw effect on the overtaking, but the opportunities around here are limited because it is quite an energy-poor circuit, so the drivers don't have lots of battery available to make passes in unexpected places. So let's see how it unfolds, but given how rare overtaking has been at Suzuka recently, I think pretty much anything will be an improvement on what we've had the last few years. That's
true. One last question on George Russell, because he wasn't happy with the setup yesterday. Is there anything you have done that you could have done for him to be a bit happier today? Yeah,
it'll just be about tuning the tyre pressures and front wing really to get the car balance where he wants it. You want a nice sort of gentle understeer balance around here, but too much of that and you knock out the fronts, too little and you chew through the rear tyres. So it's always on a knife edge at Suzuka. He was a little bit caught out yesterday in qualifying, but did a great job to recover to P2, and yeah, it'll be fun to see what he can do in the race.
All right, thanks Bradley, good luck.
Thank you.
Deputy Team Principal of Mercedes, Bradley Lord, on the grid chatting there with Jenny. Good morning if you're just joining us. We're about just a little over 20 minutes away from lights out for the Japanese Grand Prix. We're about 10 minutes delayed for the race start. That's due to some barrier repairs going on the circuit after one of the support categories a little earlier on. So everyone's been on the back foot so far, but we'll continue to run through the grid. Just heard there from the two Mercedes drivers. They lock out the front row. We've already heard from McLaren CEO Zak Brown. His two drivers, Oscar Piastri starts third in what is actually the best McLaren start this year, and Lando Norris, Alice, down in fifth. And actually I would say that's a fairly good job from him because of the reliability issues that he's been suffering all weekend long.
He's just been unlucky, isn't he? That's what McLaren say at least, but I think there's a little bit more to it because they're just having too many things go wrong. Hopefully Oscar starts his first Grand Prix today. Don't want to jinx it, but he's not had a great weekend as Lando, as you mentioned, with the reliability issues, but a fairly decent job, still lacking a little bit behind his team, which I think he really kind of has been, even through the practice sessions over the weekend. when he has been running, but also the first couple of races as well. So some drivers are just adapting a little bit better to their teammates with these new regulations.
Yeah, certainly are. Lando Norris actually on his last permitted battery after he's had 2 failures with that Mercedes power unit supply, but they're hoping they can get that second battery repaired, but it is likely they may well suffer a grid penalty later on in the season. So for McLaren then, a tricky start to the year. Let's move on to Ferrari. Let's go to Jenny, shall we?
Yes, I'm with actor Chris Pratt. Chris, Mario Kart's on screen and F1 off screen. You enjoying this?
Oh, this is exactly like Mario Kart. That's right. Japan and Kyoto's doing their own Rainbow Road today.
That is for sure. Who are you supporting?
Well, we're being graciously hosted by Lewis Hamilton and the Ferrari team, so that's pretty nice. But I'm just hoping for a really good race and for everybody to step up and do their best today.
F1's obviously been big at the moment with the F1 movie as well. It's taken the whole world by storm. It's different, isn't it, now? Yeah,
I think storytelling has that power. I think both with creating the story in the docu-series on Netflix, but also having a movie like F1 with Brad Pitt, that, stories reach people. And now standing here down on this grid, it's my first F1, you can really understand why this is a global sensation. It's not going anywhere. I'm really, really excited for the race today. It's going to be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chris Pratt there speaking with Jenny. We've got Jack Black on the grid as well. They're all here plugging the new Super Mario movie, which is coming out. Rather apt, Alice, for what everyone's been chatting about the new regulations this year. Is it a bit too Mario Kart? Well, perfect place to plug it then.
Yeah, no comment, but I do enjoy playing Mario Kart.
Yeah, well, who would you go for? Who's your character? Who'd you pick?
Oh, I used to pick Peach.
Peach.
You know that.
Yeah, okay.
Not that I look anything like Peach, but...
No, absolutely not. Is it Yoshi? Yoshi?
That figures, actually.
What do you mean that figures? Right, let's move on as the grandstands are really filling up around this Suzuka track, and you can hear the music in the background blaring, getting everybody pumped up ahead of the race. Let's talk Ferrari. Charles Leclerc starts in 4th. Lewis Hamilton starts from 6th. And, Leclerc seemed to think that little mistake yesterday where he was sliding out a spoon didn't really cost him when it came to pole. But he lit up that first sector, and suddenly we were all thinking, hang on a minute, could Charles Leclerc challenge here for pole position? And ultimately left wanting. I think there was more on the table, but 4th is still not a bad place considering those fast starts Ferrari seem to be getting.
Yeah, he's surprisingly seemed fairly relaxed and pleased with that positioning. Obviously, they've not had a great weekend. They've kind of fallen away from Mercedes a little bit and allowed McLaren to come into that sort of second place scrap, I'm going to call it, for the teams. But I think Charles would have actually probably started in front of Oscar. I think he was kind of playing down. Didn't lose any time, but he was a tenth and a half up on Antonelli in the first sector. And okay, if you look at it, he did a 29.4 in the end as Charles Leclerc. Antonelli on a 28.7. Certainly 100% did he lose some time. If you're sliding the car and having to lift off the throttle like that, you are going to be losing time. So I think he probably would have placed in front of Oscar Piastri, which given him maybe a little bit better chance at the start. But still a decent lineup for him.
Yeah, and for Lewis Hamilton, though, with a bit of work to do. But as we've been saying, I mean, those starts really do change the game for them. He ended his 27-race podium drought last time out in China, did Hamilton for Ferrari. And the 7-time world champion hoping for another good run of things. Max Verstappen, we haven't mentioned him yet, Alice, and that's because, well, he's not inside the top 10. He was knocked out in Q2 yesterday, struggling with the car, and it feels like also struggling with life in this new era of Formula One.
Yeah, he's not a happy man, is he? And he said yesterday that he needs to have a personal think about his Formula One career going forward, and that's mainly due to these regulations. We've seen him out at GTs last weekend. He was out at GT in the week as well with his GT team, and he seems to be enjoying driving those much more than he does a Formula One car at the moment. And yeah, knocked out by Arvid Lindblad, who put in a stellar performance in qualifying. But it's not the Max Verstappen that we're used to seeing, and he even said in his interviews, I can't even get angry now. It's just hugely frustrating. What can I do about it?
Interesting as well. Red Bull brought a fairly sizable upgrade for this weekend. Side pod, engine cover, floor, bits to the rear corner as well. And Verstappen say he's not really sure that's worked.
I mean, I have to admit, when we were riding on board with him at times yesterday and even outboard, the car just looked horrible. In all fairness to him, had no grip at the rear, struggling with some understeer, and he just didn't have the car underneath, and the balance seemed quite a bit off. And he even said on the radio, he's like, something's hugely wrong, something's not right.
Well, let's head back down to the grid. Jenny Gow's there.
Yes, I'm here with Laurent Mekies, the team principal for Red Bull. We were just talking about Max's woes. He wasn't a happy boy yesterday with qualifying, and in fact with the car in general at the minute. What's going on?
Yeah, you're right. You know, we have not managed this weekend to give to our drivers a car they could push with. So, of course, it's frustrating. You know, from inside the car, it's adding to the fact that generally we still have some work to do to get at the level of the competitions. But when you add to that some strong balance limitations, and it's sometimes a bit too much. So we have a lot of work to do, but that's exactly what we are here for, and we will use the time ahead of us to try to get to the bottom of it.
Just a word on Isaac Hadjar. He out-qualified his teammate. He's looking good in that second seat. It must be nice to have a 2-point story potentially.
Yeah, I mean, Isaac is doing a very good job since the beginning of the year. Don't get me wrong, we are unhappy also with Isaac's positions, but, you know, he certainly is integrating very well in the team, and today it's important to take as much learning as we can.
Okay, thank you so much.
Laurent Mekies speaking with Jenny there, the team principal of Red Bull. And as they were chatting, we already heard from Chris Pratt, but Jack Black and must be the entire cast of this new Super Mario movie are really taking over the grid. They're behind the DJ deck, they're dancing away. We should get this every race, Alice. No, they're bringing a vibe to the grid.
There's always a vibe. What are you on about?
Well, this is a very different kind of vibe.
This is a different kind of vibe, I have to admit. Not sure if I'm in tune with the dancing, but there we go.
There's been a lot of dancing so far, actually, on the grid from various troops, but still building up then. 2 lights out. Start's been delayed by 10 minutes, so we'll get the formation app at 10 past the hour. That's due to barrier repairs ongoing, so a little bit behind schedule, but we'll continue running through the grid. But on the grid now, let's head back to Jenny.
Yes, and I've managed to find Damon Hill, 1996 world champion, of course. And Damon, Japan's a special place, not just because it's Suzuka and it's magical, but it's a special place for you as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I've had a couple of good races here. Notably 96 when I finally polished off the World Championship. So 30 years ago, well, that'd be in November, actually, a bit early. But it's great to come back.
Yeah, they've changed the timing of this race, so it now fits in with Sakura when the blossom is in force and it looks beautiful. But in the good old days, it was November, wasn't it? And you really had a fight on your hands, I think it's fair to say.
Today, you mean? Back then. Back then, yeah, I mean, the championship never gives itself up easily. You know, everyone has to fight for it. But it was a relatively straightforward race once Jacques Villeneuve's wheel fell off.
Yes, that helps a little bit. We're just going to move up this way because they're firing up the Alpine. I'll never forget that race for many reasons, but one of the key ones was it was one of Murray Walker's most iconic commentary lines. Do you remember what it was?
Yes, of course, you know, and I myself sometimes have to stop because I get a lump in my throat talking about it. But, you know, he absolutely polished it off in his own unique and inimitable style. And he really should have got a knighthood just for that.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Right, tell me, you're part of our commentary team on a wider weekend. What's going to happen today? What are you expecting?
Well, we're expecting this unusual 2026 style start where the Ferraris may jump the cars ahead of them. But honestly, we really don't know, and it's actually thrown up this season. The first 10 laps have been really fascinating and quite frantic. So we're expecting that now. It's terrible. We've come to expect a wheel-to-wheel battle for the early part of the race, but I think Mercedes, the interesting thing for me is this the sudden appearance of Kimi Antonelli on the stage as a potential world champion?
It's exciting, isn't it, seeing him come of age almost and take that step forward that he couldn't find last year, but all of a sudden it's clicked.
Yeah, I think the confidence is building. Last year was he went through the tough bit. You know, he had to kind of realise that Formula One is not easy, and it's not as easy to think it is, even if you're incredibly talented. But Toto has put his arm around him, and the team have come around him, and really solidified the confidence, and it just came through in China, and he did a great job in China. But he's going to have a fight against George, definitely.
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock, so we've got 10 minutes until the race is about to begin. Late start. So, final question, Damon. Who do you think is going to win this?
I honestly don't know between George and Kimi, but I think it really is between those two.
Okay, thank you so much.
1996 F1 World Champ and Radio 5 Live's Damon Hill there on the grid. 30 years since he took the title at Suzuka, and Damon will be joining us throughout the year in our commentary booth. Right, Max Verstappen, who we were just talking about before we heard from Damon, is out of the car. He's putting on his balaclava and doing up his fireproof suit, making final checks with his performance engineers who are just alongside him by the car, but starting outside of the top 10, down in 11th. Teammate Isaac Hadjar in 8th. And I think it's going to be a usual, Alice, nice tight scrap in that midfield, which is actually headed once again by Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. Another brilliant job from the Frenchman in qualifying.
Yeah, he's enjoying these new regulations, unlike some by the looks of it. Yeah, he's had a solid start to the year, and as you said, mixing in there with the Red Bulls. Can he possibly get in the mix if Lando Norris doesn't get a great start? We could see him go even further forward up the grid. But also, as well, got to point out Hadjar, who I think has done a great job. To out-qualify Max Verstappen is impressive during any season, but of course he's made the switch across from the sister team, and we didn't speak too much about him yesterday, did we?
No, we didn't, but let's get back down to Jenny.
Got a little car.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm trying to invite myself to the party. I've got Jack Black down here, the star of so many movies, Mario Kart for one. My daughter will be amazed because she loves your whole singing. So how are you? How did you find going down there for the national anthem?
We're in heaven here. I mean, I can't believe we get to come to Formula One and get the red carpet. We're getting a front row seat, and I can't believe it. We got to go behind the scenes at the Mercedes garage and the Ferrari garage.
I love it. So I know that you're invited by Lewis Hamilton as well, but they're all taking pictures of you.
Wear a specific hat for this photo. I am to please.
We're going to them.
Go into the Mercedes garage.
Yeah. Okay.
He's trying to please everybody at the same time. So just give me how does this compare to Hollywood?
This way? All right, what was the question?
How does this compare to Hollywood?
I mean, this is a horse of a different color, but it is a very exciting horse indeed. We aims to ride it all the way to the finish line, all the way to the checkered flag, baby.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Bowser in the house.
Jack Black down on the ground with Jenny. That is brilliant. We need Jack Black in the commentary box,
Well,
I
if
think.
you weren't away, you are now.
Yeah, good morning. That was the voice of Jack Black on 5 Live, and you're listening to live coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix, which is getting up going in about 6.5 minutes time. The formation lap will be going, and then we'll get lights out. That's because we are running about 10 minutes delayed because of grid repairs, barrier repairs I should say, due to a support category incident a little earlier on. So that while that was being done, we had to wait a little longer, which is just allowing us to soak up that atmosphere a little bit more. Grandstands are packed, nice weather as well, sun is out, a little bit of cloud cover, air temperature just under 19 degrees, track temperature 36.6 degrees actually. It's just gone down by a degree, but it was actually quite much cooler yesterday, wasn't it? How's that going to affect things today, Alice?
We were in the 27 track temperature yesterday, so thermal degradation might be slightly high, even though it's not a huge thing here, particularly with the way that these cars have to be driven. Now we've had plenty of, as you've mentioned already, Harry, of on-track action, so I expect the track with the repairs that has been taking place to the barriers to be a little bit dusty, because it always is the case when we have the likes of the Porsche Carrera Cup and Ferrari Challenge out on track with the repair vehicles as well.
Yeah, it certainly is. Right, let's continue pointing out some stars on the grid to watch out for. We've mentioned Pierre Gasly, Isaac Hadjar. The top 10 is rounded out by Gabriel Bortoletto in the Audi, his second top 10 start of the year, and Arvid Lindblad, whose star continues to shine in his early Formula One career inside the top 10.
he's just been so impressive, hasn't he? And he missed out in free practice 2 for a gearbox issue, no problem, and had a great result in qualifying. Even if we throw it back to China, he did a great job there for missing out in free practice. So 2 tracks that he's not been to, and he's outperformed his teammate. And if I was Liam Lawson, I'd be thinking, really? Not again? And Arvid is taking to it like a duck to water.
He certainly is. His second top 10 start of the year as well. As we mentioned, he's ahead of Max Verstappen. One of the surprises of qualifying yesterday was actually the Haas of Ollie Behrman, who is enjoying life in the top 5 of the Drivers' Championship after the first 2 rounds, and solidly out-qualifying, out-racing teammate Ocon, but couldn't make it out of Q1 yesterday.
No, he had a spin at the end of free practice 3, which I think hampered his preparation on the soft tyre. Said that he had a small deployment issue as well of this battery power, so that definitely would have hampered his progress into the next part of qualifying. But I'll expect, if he keeps out of trouble on the opening laps of this Grand Prix, I expect that we'll see him charging forward, particularly ahead of the Williams, both Williams cars, and certainly Franco Colapinto as well.
Well, look, it's a 53-lap race around this Suzuka circuit, 18 turns and a figure of 8 layout, 10 that go to the right, 8 that head to the left, just over 5.8 kilometres, 3.6 miles. Not the longest run down to turn 1, not many huge big braking zones, but we've seen overtaking like we've never seen overtaking before in Formula 1 with this new era of car. When it comes to the strategy for this race, Alice, what are we thinking? What are we looking out for here?
Well, if you're the Ferraris, you're going to hope that you're going to absolutely leapfrog the 2 Mercedes to try and give them any hope. Looking at the race pace that we saw in free practice on Friday, Mercedes seem to have the upper hand, which they have done in the start of this year, with 1 or 2 tenths faster than the McLaren and the Ferrari. Strategy, we're still expecting, well, we don't know what people are starting. Actually, everyone pretty much starting on the medium tyre, or bar Bottas on the Cadillac. So we expect them to on the medium to head into the pits between lap 15 and 21, and then on the hard tyre and take it away to the end.
Yeah, last year Max Verstappen won the race starting on the medium tyre and went to lap 21 and then put on the hard tyre to the end. Pirelli bringing the hardest trio in the range when it comes to tyres for this weekend, and the C1, that hard tyre, actually making its season debut. So how they get on with that for this race, with the track being resurfaced as well, part of it ahead of this weekend and part of it ahead of last year as well. Smoother, slightly lower grip conditions, but that would have ramped up over the course of the weekend. We could see, though, the strategy affected. Safety cars, virtual safety cars, red flags potentially as well. Weather looks like it's going to stay stable, though, about a 0% chance of rain.
Yeah, so that's safe. The wind, as Jenny mentioned on the grids, the wind could be a factor. Quite gusty out there from the look of the flags as well. The headwind down into turn 1, which is going to make the deployment and the tow as well more effective down that part of the straight. But yeah, certainly keeping your nose clean on these opening laps here at Suzuka is absolutely crucial. Much easier said than done. And we, of course, here's a high chance of safety car, 50% chance.
Yeah, and we've seen contact on lap 1 before here in Suzuka, but with this new era of car, lighter, more nimble, narrower tyres as well, how will that affect things? We actually saw three cars going side by side going into turn 1 in free practice 1. Could we get something like that in the early stages of this Suzuka circuit? We're in prime cherry blossom season in Japan, just gearing up for it, and what will be the 36th race held at Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. Round 3 coming your way shortly. Kimi Antonelli starting on pole for Mercedes. 22 drivers sit waiting on the grid in Suzuka. The grandstands are packed. It's our last race before a 5-week gap in the calendar. Mercedes are the dominant force, but look out for those fast starting Ferraris. Watch for those McLarens. And there's always a scrap to be had in the midfield. We're looking forward to this one. 53 laps of racing. It's time for the Japanese Grand Prix. Peel away on the formation lap. Let's run you through the grid in full from back to front. On row 11, it's the two Aston Martins. Lance Stroll in 22nd behind teammate Fernando Alonso. Ahead of them, it's the Cadillacs. Bottas in P20. Sergio Perez going from 19th. Row 9 sees Alex Albon in 17th ahead of Oliver Behrman's Haas in 18th. Row 8 sees the Williams of Franco Colapinto start 15th ahead of Carlos Sainz. Then into the top 14, it's Liam Lawson behind Nico Hulkenberg's Audi from 13th spot. Esteban Ocon out-qualifies teammate Ollie Behrman to start 12th behind Max Verstappen with work to do. Inside the top 10, and it's a second top 10 start of the year for Arvid Lindblad in the Racing Bulls behind Gabriel Bortoletto's Audi in 9th. Isaac Hadjar starts 8th behind Pierre Gasly, best of the rest in his Alpine. Inside the top 6, it's Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris, the top 5. Charles Leclerc's Ferrari from 4th, with Oscar Piastri in 3rd, and it's a front row lockout for the Mercedes drivers. George Russell in 2nd, Kimi Antonelli starts on pole. Well, everybody then, bar Valtteri Bottas, starting on the medium tyre. Valtteri Bottas from the back, opting on the hard, hoping for a bit of maybe carnage and go on the end, and go as long as he can for the Finnish driver. But we've got a slightly slow Max Verstappen on the formation lap.
Well, it's Antonelli has had to slow everybody down because he was down into Degnes at turn 9, and the two Aston Martins were still pulling away on the grid, and that was just the nature of everyone just sort of massively stretching out. So someone's probably told him maybe back this pace up a little bit, because the last thing that he wants is to be sat on that grid for a long period of time, tyres losing temperature, brakes losing temperature, whilst everyone else is still coming to the grid. Yeah,
and already Jenny Gao, our eyes and ears on the ground. Kimi Antonelli making his way around the final corner now.
Yes, I've just got my eyes on him just to see when he comes round, and in front of this great big circus kind of fun fair that they have here at the circuit, the big wheel like the London Eye, and a roller coaster by the side of Kimi Antonelli as he finally gets to the grid. The two Mercedes starting into place now. We're expecting them to come in and pit once or twice, maybe if the safety cars go the wrong way. About 23 seconds if they come into the pits.
Thanks, Jenny. Well, good morning. If you're just waking up, this is 5 Live F1 with coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix at the iconic Suzuka circuit, the third race of the year, and it sets us up for another busy day across the 5 Live network. Following us, Laura McGee and Stefan Powell are with you for Sunday breakfast, 10 a.m. And Colin Murray is here to set you up for your day of sport and beyond. Then from 2 p.m, Katie Smith is here with 5 Live Sport, bringing you all of today's action, including rugby build-up to Sale v Bath in the Premiership. That gets going from 3 p.m. on 5 Live, and we'll bring you updates of Hull FC, the Catalan Dragons over in the Super League, with more Super League action from Leeds Rhinos against Warrington Wolves on 5 Sports Extra at 5:25 today. But right now, for the next couple of hours here on 5 Live, it's Harry Benjamin and Alice Powell with you up in the commentary box, getting ready for the start of the Japanese Grand Prix with 22 cars lined up in place. The two Aston Martins at the back, the green flag waves. On the front row is the Mercedes of George Russell. On pole position is Kimi Antonelli. Watch out for those fast charging Ferraris. The McLarens are in there as well. It's all eyes to the lights, and it will be foot to the floor as we go racing in Japan. It's a great start for Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc in the McLaren, but it's going to be Oscar Piastri who takes the lead from Antonelli into turn 1. Our pole sitter down to 3rd and having to defend from Lando Norris, who sweeps round the outside. But what a start from the man in 3rd, Oscar Piastri, who hasn't started a Grand Prix lap all year, leads the Japanese Grand Prix from Charles Leclerc. Then comes Lando Norris. Antonelli down to 4th.
Yeah, brilliant start by Oscar. As you said, hasn't started a Grand Prix all year, and he's certainly waited for this one. He's got a good gap already to the Charles Leclerc in 2nd place.
Certainly has. They make their way out of the second Degner now towards the hairpin. Lap 1 of 53. George Russell also losing spots. He's behind the second Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton. Piastri, Leclerc, Norris, Russell, Hamilton the top 5, with Antonelli losing further spots as well. Pierre Gasly's maintained his spot in 7th position, best of the rest, as the Haas of Esteban Ocon going toe-to-toe with the Red Bull of Max Verstappen as we come into Spoon. Verstappen ahead of Ocon as they jostle for position in the mid-pack. Antonelli losing further positions on that start. Russell is ahead of him. Russell the leading Mercedes in that pack. But as we head now through 130R, the left-hander, and finish off lap 1 as the sun glints off all 22 cars. A clean start. It is Oscar Piastri who leads for McLaren, Charles Leclerc in 2nd, Lando Norris in 3rd, George Russell 4th, Hamilton 5th, and Kimi Antonelli in 6th. But here comes Kimi Antonelli making his way past Lewis Hamilton down into turn 1 and sets about trying to recover that lost pole.
Clearly using more deployment there. That was an easy move for Kimi Antonelli, but George Russell had another huge snap of oversteer. We saw this plenty of times yesterday for him out of the chicane, the final chicane, and another one there. But disaster for Antonelli. We said this should be, even if they do drop back for Mercedes, should be fairly easy for them to slice through the pack. But looking at the pace at the moment up front from Piastri, he's making it look fairly comfortable actually. 1.7 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, and this is exactly what the other teams need to do. Mercedes are the dominant force right now, but if other teams can get ahead of them at the start and disrupt them and make it harder, they can't be as efficient as they would like. They can't deploy and recharge their battery in all the places that they would like to. It makes their life a nightmare. Further back in the pack, squabbling between the two Red Bulls, well, I don't think it was too much of a squabble as Isaac Hadjar lets Max Verstappen through as we come into Spoon, but then Hadjar almost pushing Verstappen out on the exits, and they're both behind Arvid Lindblad, who started in 10th and has made his way up into 8th. But Esteban Ocon in the Haas wants to capitalise on the two Red Bulls letting each other through. Has a little look to the inside at 130R. Thinks better of it, does Ocon, trying to get inside the top 10. Ocon in 11th behind the two squabbling Red Bulls as well. Continued doing battle, but this time Verstappen has managed to cement the lead ahead of Hadjar. Verstappen 9th, and Hadjar's compromised on the exit out of the final corner. That allows Esteban Ocon through and up inside the top 10.
Russell's got past Lando Norris, and I wondered how long that was going to take him because Antonelli stormed up to the back of him, and I thought any moment now we're probably going to get a radio message from Antonelli saying, look, George needs to go past, and he has done. So pretty easy for him to overtake. And I was just wondering whether we saw Hadjar make a mistake. He had a very poor first sector, so I'm wondering, because he actually was up there in 8th place and then it's now down into 11th, so something must have happened in that first sector.
Lap 3 at 53, Piastri leads Leclerc by 1.8 seconds. Russell now up into 3rd and chasing. Norris 4th, Antonelli 5th, Hamilton the top 6. Gasly's holding 7th ahead of Arvid Lindblad. Then comes Max Verstappen's Red Bull ahead of Esteban Ocon in the Haas. That's the top 10. Hadjar now outside of it in 11th ahead of Liam Lawson. Colapinto's up to 13th. Behrman, who started down in 18th, has made ground up to 14th. Bortoletto's had a shocker in the Audi. He started 9th. He's fallen down to 15th ahead of the two Williams cars, Sainz and Albon. Hulkenberg 18th, then it's Perez in the Cadillac, Alonso 20th, then Stroll and Bottas 22nd and last. Everybody out there on that medium tyre, bar Bottas, who's fallen to the back of the pack, as we hear the sounds then of the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, who is in 5th and closing up to the rear of the Papaya McLaren in front of him, which is Lando Norris, as by turn 1 George Russell breezes past the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Those Ferraris, they might well be quick in the corners, but they're not fast in a straight line.
No, and that was easy stuff from George Russell to breeze past Charles Leclerc. So now his next target, 1.8 seconds up the road, is Oscar Piastri, who's going to also get a test of his body's going to get the first test of the year on race endurance as well. But that was easy stuff from George, and Antonelli's probably not moving up the order as fast as he would have liked. So he's got this 2-car gap now between himself and his teammate, so he'll be looking to try and make his way past. I was expecting actually for him to go past Lando, but on the main straight, but Lando got a really solid exit out of the final chicane.
And with overtake mode enabled as well down that start-finish straight, when you're with a second of the car in front of you, you are allowed to deploy an extra half a megajoule of energy. So the same parameters as the old DRS when you're within a second at the designated zone, and that zone is down the start-finish straight for overtake mode, and it can be used along with the boost button on the driver's steering wheel, which gives them absolute max power from the engine and battery as long as they've got the battery levels to do it. So how that will play out over the course of this Grand Prix will be interesting. Piastri actually with a 1.5 second advantage over George Russell, who has the fastest lap, but Russell is closing. Kimi Antonelli now looking at the back of Lando Norris once again into turn one, but can't close up the top four: Piastri, Russell, Leclerc and Norris. Then comes Antonelli with Hamilton a little further adrift, but still keeping his nose in it. Then there's a gap to Pierre Gasly and Arvid Lindblad, who's got Max Verstappen hunting him down. Red Bull Junior versus Red Bull Senior. Esteban Ocon, the top 10. Jenny Gow.
Yes, we were speaking about that half a megajoule of extra energy, and actually Andrew Benton and I were speaking to one of the engineers. They said that equates to about 0.2 of a second per lap if you get that magic boost.
Yeah, so it's nothing to be sniffed at either, and used strategically to defend or to overtake as into the hairpin. Kimi Antonelli trying to line up a move, and Max Verstappen lining up a move down the inside of Arvid Lindblad. Gets a little kick on the rear end, but manages to keep his foot down on the throttle as he now carves his way towards Spoon. Verstappen's got the job done on Lindblad, who falls down to 9th, having started this race in 10th. Max Verstappen working his way up from where he started in 11th. It's Verstappen 8th, Lindblad 9th, Ocon rounds out the point scorers in 10th. Ocon all over the back of Lindblad now. Antonelli still not through on Lando Norris, but might try something round the final corner as we head down the start-finish straight once again.
I'm wondering what happened to Bortoletto. I was having a look because he's dropped way down from where he started. He obviously started up in 9th place, down in 15th now. And Antonelli's still not able to get past Lando Norris. Russell is steaming out to the back of Piastri. 9/10 is the gap up front. And Ocon has got past Lindblad.
And on cue, we are getting a look at what happened at the race start. So Kimi Antonelli so slow off the line and really plummeted down the order. George Russell with the better start, and then Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc just able to carve their way through, and then Lando Norris was able to sweep round the outside of George Russell as well. So Antonelli really dropped like a stone from pole position. Gasly did a good job at holding on to 7th. This is the sound of Antonelli.
You can just see just struggling to pick up those revs, and then that sinking feeling of everyone just storming past you pretty much, including your teammate. And on board with Piastri, and you can hear the rev difference. It just picks up much nicer than the Mercedes of Antonelli, and the Ferrari now, Charles Leclerc. And that's what a start should sound like. A little bit of wheel spin, and he was thinking about it, wasn't he? He was thinking, do I go? Do I brave it round the outside of Oscar Piastri? Thought better of it, and actually that even answered my question when we saw that replay of Bortoletto. Similar start to Antonelli, actually, just sank backwards into the pack.
Certainly did, but now lap 7 of 53. Piastri still out in front, ahead of George Russell, who's now 6/10 behind and closing. Leclerc a further 2 seconds behind them, with Lando Norris behind him and Antonelli. So perhaps that's what's just helping Lando Norris stay in front of Kimi Antonelli at the moment, is that the fact he's within a second of Charles Leclerc in front, gets the benefit of a bit of slipstream plus that overtake mode, using boost appropriately as well, round a lap. But of course for Lando Norris, he's had so few laps this weekend, saying coming into this Grand Prix he hasn't done much running, if any, with high fuel. So every lap is a step into the unknown for Lando Norris.
Yeah, it certainly is, as George Russell's right at the back now, 7/10 it says on the screen, but it looks closer than 7/10 to me. But I'm amazed at how Antonelli's not done what George Russell's been doing and coming through. that can't be a strategy thing. That obviously somewhere along the line he is sort of struggling to get past, as riding on board, looking back at George Russell now on board with Piastri. I think it's going to be only a matter of time before we're going to see Russell make the move on Oscar.
As they make their way down the stretch towards 130R, the front and rear wings open on both the McLaren and the Mercedes. That straight line mode, the active aero, then shuts through the corners as we now brake for the final chicane. The Casio triangle, right then left, clout the curves on each side, carry the momentum round the final corner, and to the start-finish line we go once more. Lap 8 of 53. Piastri has a little look in his mirrors. George Russell just tucked in behind. No move to be done yet for the man who leads the Drivers' Championship. In second right now, chasing the man who hasn't turned a single lap until today in a Grand Prix. Crashed out on his way to the grid in Australia for his home race, did Oscar Piastri, and a power unit issue prevented him from taking the start in China alongside his teammate. But Piastri's been quick all weekend long in that McLaren, and doing a good job for the squad from Woking so far. But it's early stages in Japan, with everybody on the medium tyre bar Valtteri Bottas, expecting a one-stop if there are no interruptions. So if you start on that medium tyre, you're looking to try and eke it out to around about lap 15 to lap 21, maybe longer, if you can manage your tyres well.
So George Russell, 8/10 is the gap. He was very close into the entry of the final chicane, but that McLaren does seem to have the grip to launch off where George was struggling yesterday, struggled at the start of this race as well. And actually Antonelli's has fallen back slightly, but now we're on to that back straight, closing the gap through 130R, which is clearly where the McLaren is. George Russell down the inside.
Has a little look, really close on him through 130R, moves to the inside. Antonelli and Russell getting the job done on Piastri. Antonelli's all over the back of the other McLaren, but Russell then fighting for that lead, but Piastri's coming right back at him. Down the start-finish straight we go. Russell has to tuck in behind, as further back this squabble really heating up nicely with Hamilton, with Leclerc and the Ferrari, then Lando Norris with Kimi Antonelli and Hamilton tucked in behind, but falling back. Piastri leads though, back in front by 0.6 of a second. Russell saw the gap, went for it, coming into the final chicane, had clear air in front of him, and then it was snatched away by turn one.
Yeah, and that was Oscar basically saying, yeah, you may be in the faster car, but I'm not going to let you have this easy. And he certainly didn't. It looked like the McLaren, I was just about to say before the move happened, is recharging much more through 130R, and George sees that opportunity, and Oscar said, okay, well then I'm just going to deploy more going down the main straight, and that's exactly what he did. So listening now to George Russell lifting off, which is not something we really want to see, and here in 130R, but clearly the McLaren in front lifting more, and that was an easy move for George Russell.
But then down that start-finish straight, Piastri just able to deploy more and get through and retake the lead then. Lap 9 of 53, Piastri back in front, Russell behind, Leclerc in third, keeping Norris at bay, and Antonelli. Those three though still oh so close, nose to tail coming through the final chicane. Norris though with a slightly poor exit out of the final corner. Kimi Antonelli's going to swing round that final corner and try and close up behind him. Charles Leclerc leading that gaggle as they head to turn one. Antonelli with a little look, but he's not near enough, can't find a way through. It's Leclerc third, Norris fourth, Antonelli fifth. Hamilton's fallen a little bit further back now in sixth on his own in that second Ferrari.
Yeah, Hamilton struggled all weekend, hasn't he, compared to his teammate, just saying he's lacking confidence in the car and not been able to get on with it this weekend. But Antonelli now starting to fight a little bit at the wheel, a sign potentially that sitting behind this dirty hot air from the McLaren really is harming his tyres. He's closer than he has been in the last few laps, 4/10 the gap now, but going into the hairpin turn 11, no opportunity for him to go down the inside there, and you've got to be very brave to go down the inside at turn 13, which is the first part of Spoon.
As we make our way there, just looking further down the order, it's fairly even. Hadjar has spent a while behind Arvid Lindblad on the cusp of the points, trying to close in. The Red Bull driver closing in on the Racing Bulls, but the battle up front is actually the closest battles up and down the grid. Piastri 6/10 clear of Russell at the front, then Leclerc with Norris and Antonelli right on his tail still as we head through the final chicane once more. Leclerc's just able to get a better exit out of that final corner. Lando Norris not able to stick with him, but down the start-finish straight, that McLaren more efficient than the Mercedes. Under braking into turn one we go as we plunge downhill through the double right-hander. It's as they were, with Oscar Piastri still out in front, Russell behind 0.7 of a second.
And actually, I'm impressed with the McLaren, because remember, none of their cars started last time out. Only one car started at Australia, so technically they've only really had data from one Grand Prix. And for them both to be, well, running fairly competitively, Lando obviously in fourth, Oscar leading the race, to have all this information and about the battery deployment and the car is impressive. A lot of work would have been done on the simulator, so many hours going into the simulator drivers having to spend a lot of time probably doing race runs, qualifying runs, simulations to help towards the running on track. But still from McLaren, they're getting it right so far. Of course, we're only lap 11 of 53, still a very long way to go. But for the limited amount of Grand Prix running and race running, this is pretty impressive from McLaren.
Through 130R, Lando Norris has got Kimi Antonelli in his mirrors, and in front of him into the braking zone of the final chicane. Antonelli finally finds a way through on Norris. Can Norris fight back with anything? I don't think he can. He's already fallen a car length behind as we start lap 12 of 53. Antonelli finally unleashed from behind the McLaren of Lando Norris and can set his sights on Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Will this leave the Ferrari vulnerable now, as Oscar Piastri leads this race in the other McLaren, saying front left has a narrow band of graining? Just wondering, can you explain that, Alice, graining on the tyre?
Yeah, so that's the surface of the tyre starts to, that grain effect on that outer edge for Oscar. Once you got graining, it's very hard to, well, that's it, your tyre's starting to go away, and we saw a lot of that in Australia. And again, this is maybe something that McLaren because they haven't done a lot of Grand Prix running, it's going to hamper them a little bit with this tyre. So that graining effect on the tyre, that's now going to start to get worse and worse for Oscar. It's going to start to lose that front end grip of the car, and that could be music to George Russell's ears unless he's got something similar. But just looking at the front tyre, it looks all right from him.
Sorry, Alice, I'm just watching Isaac Hadjar almost getting run out into the grass by Arvid Lindblad over a battle of 10th and 11th. No love lost between the Red Bull and the Racing Bulls as they head towards Spoon, arcing their way right as they swing it in to the double left-hander. Arvid Lindblad defending for all his might for that final points-paying position. Scored points on debut, did Lindblad back in Australia, had a tough China. At the moment is keeping ahead of that Red Bull and holding on to that final point, but it looks like Hadjar is in the stronger position right now and has a little look to the inside at the final chicane, but there's a little bit of hesitation. Lindblad slightly dawdling in the middle of the road. I can imagine Hadjar will be on the radio and not happy with that. But as we start lap 13 of 53 for Lindblad and Hadjar, they're having a nice scrap right on the cusp of the point scoring positions.
Yeah, back to that graining. George Russell's tyres look good. They look, certainly the front left looks in better shape than it does on Oscar Piastri's car. So being able to manage that slightly better than the McLaren in front of him, but still Oscar doing a solid job. 9/10 is the gap at the moment.
Lap 13 of 53, Piastri leads. That gap actually extended now to a second over George Russell. Then it's Leclerc, Antonelli and Norris, the top five. Hamilton is 6th ahead of Pierre Gasly. Verstappen 8th, then Ocon. Lindblad holds on to 10th. Those are your point scorers, with Hadjar in 11th. Lawson is 12th. Colapinto, Bortoletto and Behrman the top 15, with Sainz, Hulkenberg, Albon, Perez and Stroll, the 20th drivers, with Alonso and Bottas bringing up the rear of the field in 21st and 22nd. Now is Charles Leclerc under pressure here as he brakes for the final chicane. Kimi Antonelli has closed right up under the rear wing of that Ferrari as we tick over for lap 14 of 15. Piastri keeping Russell at arm's length. Leclerc not such the case with the other Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, who closes right up to the back of the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc moves to the inside, defends that position, and is, as they were, third and fourth for Leclerc and Antonelli. Jenny, let's head down to you.
Yeah, things not going too well for Audi at the moment. They lost a ton of places off the start. Hülkenberg lost 6 places. Bortolato lost 4. They're not happy down there, and they don't have Jonathan Wheatley as their team principal anymore. He left in between the gap of China and this race. And just one thing, Charles Leclerc is saying, is everything okay with my power at Ferrari?
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, keeping across the team radio. We just had a message pop up, Alice, from Max Verstappen in his Red Bull.
Yeah, so he was on about his power steering. He says the wheel's feeling really heavy, and I tell you what, not that I've ever experienced it before, but from speaking to drivers in the past, when you do lose power steering in a Formula 1 car, that's hard. The wheel goes so heavy, it will be hugely physical for Max Verstappen. So that's not something that you want to hear or want to feel as a driver on lap 14 of a Grand Prix. So, of course, this team will be diving into all the data, all the information to try and figure out what's going on Max's car.
Through 130R we go again with Kimi Antonelli and Charles Leclerc into the final chicane, braking right, then left. Then it curves round to the right once more. As you complete a lap of this Suzuka circuit, this is the sound of Kimi Antonelli. Closing, moves to the outside, forced to by Charles Leclerc, who takes the middle line and defensive line into the downhill turn 1. As it then, like a roller coaster ride, sends you uphill through sector 1, left, then right, then left again.
If we hold track position, I think we can hang on to this. Copy, Oscar, understood.
Positive signs from Oscar Piastri, who leads this race by 1.2 seconds. If we can hold on to the track position, there's a chance they can win here, and we didn't have that down today.
No, we certainly didn't at all. And he sounded, pretty relaxed, as he does most of the time on the radio, in fairness to Oscar Piastri. But just when we were riding on boards with Kimi Antonelli there, we thought we were going to expect him to charge past, but actually Ferrari's strategy with the deployment, they seem to deploy more on that front straight compared to the Mercedes, and then unable to deploy as much down the back straight, which is where we're going to get to now. And Antonelli, a little bit of a wiggle, so he's not as close as he would have liked to be to the back of the Ferrari, but still close enough.
He certainly is. Black and white flag for Arvid Lindblad, moving under braking in his defensive efforts against Isaac Hadjar. I thought he might come under a little bit of scrutiny for that. Meanwhile, back into the chicane, Kimi Antonelli moves out to the inside later on the brakes and makes it look easy, but it hasn't been for Kimi Antonelli as he has a huge snap coming around the final corner. He's ahead of Leclerc, but Leclerc is all over the back of him now and gets a taste of the air in front of him once more and breezes back through. A mistake from Antonelli. He was nearly there, and now he's under pressure from Lando Norris in the McLaren. Leclerc gets back through for third as we head up through the S's. Antonelli down to fourth with Norris behind.
Hamilton, the only driver setting personal bests in the top 6.
15. Hitting the tyres, filling up to the end. That's one off.
If we think the tyres can go to the end, then why not? Thoughts on pitting earlier for Oscar Piastri, but wants to make sure he can hold on to track position. So a lot of numbers being crunched on the strategy side on the pit wall for McLaren right now.
Yeah, I mean, the only risk you run with that is, of course, potential safety cars, but this scrap between Leclerc and Antonelli has now allowed Norris to come back into the fold in this scrap. But also Lewis Hamilton, who was kind of driving a race on his own, has breezed up to the back of this as well. So that could have been a little bit of strategy looking after his tyres by Lewis Hamilton, because he dropped about 1.5 to 2 seconds off the back of this, but he's now 0.6 off the back of Lando Norris.
Yeah, it's turning into a 4-car battle over third place. Leclerc in the Ferrari, Antonelli in the Mercedes, who, after biding his time, thought he'd found a way through and then just had a huge snap coming through the final right-hander that leads you onto the start-finish straight. And we've got action in the pit lane, and it's one of the McLarens. It's Lando Norris. Jenny Gow.
Yes, it is. Lando Norris into the pits. He slows down to 80 kilometres. He'll come in to his box and they'll pit him. It should be onto the hard tyres. They've got 2 hard tyres, the McLarens, the only team that have 2 hard tyres fitted into this race. So he goes out now on those hard tyres. It was 2.5 seconds and he rejoins the race. Harry, where will he rejoin?
Well, it looks like Esteban Ocon will go through, and that will put Norris into 9th place ahead of the battling Lindblad and Hadjar. Ollie Behrman also comes into the pits from further down the order. So that's interesting call then, Alice, from McLaren. Piastri deciding to stay out, because normally it would be the lead car within the same team that gets priority over pitting first.
Yeah, and even though we heard Oscar say about the front graining, he still seems fairly happy and relaxed on the radio, and that's actually a really nice slot that they've put Norris back into. He's got a 1 to 2 second gap with Esteban Ocon, and then Ocon is 8.9 seconds off the back of Max Verstappen. So some nice fresh air for Lando Norris to play in.
So fresh air for both McLarens right now, but Piastri keeping that gap to about 1.6 seconds and really trying not to let George Russell through, because if he does, then that Mercedes can go into dominant mode and starts to deploy and manage exactly where it wants to. Into the pits we go once more. This time it is the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Jenny.
Yes, he comes into the lane, slows his car down, and he will pull in, and they will hopefully pit a set of hard tyres on. They lift him up, stand out the way for the front jack man, and release him with the hard tyres. And how long does that take? It's not going to tell me. 2.1 seconds fast for Ferrari.
Yeah, response to Lando Norris then pitting a lap prior. That's going to get Charles Leclerc out in front, but only just, because Lando Norris now will have the benefit of 1 lap warmer tyres up to temperature. Can Norris try and close up to the back of Leclerc while Leclerc is busy trying to get heat in his tyres on this outlap?
No, I think he's pretty much got it covered as Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris has already breezed past Esteban Ocon, so that fresh air that I was talking about for Lando Norris, well, not anymore, because he's going to be tucked in behind Charles Leclerc. And the gap out front, Piastri has this all in control, doesn't he, Harry? 1.8 seconds is the gap now, and he's making it look easy, but obviously don't be fooled. Russell again could be the tactic to starting to look after his tyres, but we are getting, well, we're deep sort of into this pit window now for boxing for the medium tyres.
Into the chicane, Oscar Piastri in that McLaren after a brilliant start from third, took the lead into turn 1 and comes into the pits. Jenny, our race leader, is in.
Yes, let's hope he can have a smooth pit stop. He comes in, the lane takes him down to the end box, because they won the championship last year, so it's a long way for him to go. The mechanics, 22 of them, all standing around the car ready to go. They put the hard tyre on. It looks like a good stop. He's already out. 2.4 seconds for Piastri.
Not bad at all from McLaren, and that will feed him out behind Max Verstappen in 6th spot, ahead of Leclerc and Norris by a fair few seconds. But that has released now George Russell into the lead of this Grand Prix. Kimi Antonelli behind him, 2.8 seconds, and having just set the fastest lap, Arvid Lindblad pits from the top 10 in his Racing Bulls as he continues to hope for a point come the end of these 53 laps. It's lap 19 of 53. The two Mercedes back inside the top 2, but yet to pit.
That was a slow stop from Lindblad. It didn't look like there was, well, it was hard to see from the small screen where there was the front tyres that were sort of one of the fronts that was slow on, but not an ideal stop for Lindblad. But now we might be able to see a little bit more true pace from from the Mercedes. Were they saving tyres? Well, certainly Antonelli looks like he was. He set the fastest lap of the race. George Russell setting personal bests in the middle sector. So they're released, and obviously more laps they do on this medium tyre, stretch out, they'll have fresher hards if that's how it's going to play out towards the end of the race.
And no movement yet from the Mercedes drivers coming into the pit lane. They stay out for another lap around. Those who pitted further back in the pack, mentioned Ollie Behrman. He had a really slow stop, but he's now on the hard tyre. He's fallen back down to 19th spot. Franco Colapinto in the Alpine also pitted. He's down to 17th on the hard tyre. Lindblad with that slow stop, over 4 seconds in the Racing Bulls. That will allow Hadjar through once he's pitted, if he has a clean stop in the Red Bull. Lindblad now out on that hard tyre in 12th position. But here's Russell on the radio, your leader.
I think I'm going to lose a lot of race time extended. Give me your opinion.
So Russell says...
So target -7. Currently, obviously, we would still drop out behind Piastri.
So Russell thinks the longer he stays out, he's going to lose time. And it sounds like they're reducing his window for a pit stop, but still with the caveat that they will drop behind Oscar Piastri, who is 20.3 seconds adrift, down in sixth place, and the pit loss under a green flag is around about 22 to 23 seconds.
Yes, it sounds like to me he's that's secret code of, I think we're losing time, please box me very soon. And actually looking at the lap times last time around, 134.9 for Russell, 134.3 from Antonelli. So I expect at this stage that's not going to be George Russell sort of saving some tyre. That's just going to be lacking of pace compared to his teammate, as Oscar Piastri now steams up to the back of Max Verstappen. Max is never going to make it easy, and he certainly doesn't as he shuts the outside entrance into the chicane for Oscar Piastri, and Oscar's going to have to now wait for this main straight, and you would expect this should be easy pickings for him.
And it is. Oscar Piastri moves to the inside, under braking, sweeps into turn one. A few sparks flying from the underside of that Papaya McLaren. Piastri is through on Verstappen, who is yet to pit. Your order right now on lap 21 and 53, Russell leading Antonelli. Neither Mercedes driver has pitted. Then comes Lewis Hamilton up to third, also yet to pit. Gasly's running in fourth and is also yet to pit. So the first of the stoppers is Oscar Piastri, who pitted from the race lead, who is now 2.3 seconds behind Gasly on the hard tyre, and that we expect is his first and final pit stop. One stop race being run here, but we could still get some disruption, a safety car, a virtual safety car, or indeed a red flag. Still have 22 runners in this race, both Cadillacs and both Aston Martins still running out there, but at the back of the pack, having had a lot of reliability issues so far this year.
Antonelli is starting to take chunks out of his teammate, who is being called, by the looks of it, is Russell, into pit lane. So I expect the Mercedes is going to bleed into the pits, and he is.
And he does, and he slows down to 80 kilometres an hour. Russell, the leader of the Grand Prix, now comes in, Jenny, for that first pit stop.
Yes, the black and silver car with that flash of green whizzes past me down to his pit box. They lift him up in the air, just 2 millimetres. They put on the hard tyre, and it's 3 seconds. That's a slightly slow stop.
Slightly slow, wheel spinning as he comes out of that Mercedes pit box, having pitted at the end of lap 21 for George Russell. Gets out just ahead of Max Verstappen's Red Bull. Crucially, doesn't get bogged down behind him, as we've got a yellow flag out on track, and it is Ollie Behrman, who looks like he's found the wall, has the British driver in the Haas. I think that's at Spoon. He's found the gravel, found the wall, and that could be a safety car, and that could turn this race upside down. Safety car is out then and has been called. That could be brilliant for those at the top of the field who've yet to pit. Antonelli leads. Hamilton and Gasly, the top three in this race, have all yet to pit, and it could be terrible timing for George Russell, who had just pitted and come out onto the track. We haven't seen what happened to Ollie Behrman, but it looks like he's lost the car on entry into Spoon.
Yeah, as Antonelli, of course, is going to be called into box. That works perfectly into Antonelli's hands, but that's a bizarre place for Behrman to go off, and as he had some rear locking going into Spoon, there's grass all over the track.
Unbelievable.
Well, to be fair, he didn't want to go long, did he? So they did call him in, and that's come round to bite him, but of course it was never to know. So Antonelli, I expect to bleed into the pits.
And that's the sound of him. Lewis Hamilton being called in as well. No doubt Gasly as well. This could be brilliant for Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. Antonelli is in, Jenny, and I think this will get him up into the lead of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, it should take about 10 seconds under a safety car. So Antonetti pulls up to his grid box. They change the tyres onto the hard tyres. Lewis Hamilton now pulls into the Ferrari grid box. They lift him up as well onto hard tyres. It's pretty busy down here. How long was Hamilton's pit stop? It's not going to tell me right now, but he's back out again. It was 2 seconds for Hamilton. Very good.
Verstappen also pitting. This will benefit him. Not so much the case for the likes of Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris. Where is this going to put Hamilton as he feeds out? Antonelli does hold on to the lead. Piastri cycles up to second. Russell then up into third, with Hamilton ahead now of his teammate Charles Leclerc. And we're just seeing pictures of Ollie Behrman, who's had a real big hit, and he's out of the car but having to be helped by the marshals to behind the barrier, limping and holding on to his ankle on his right leg. Behrman's had a big hit there. We've still not seen exactly how it's happened, but it's good to see him out of the car, but he is looking visibly hurt.
So he's gone sideways into the barrier. So what I expect happened is his ankle bones are basically just hit together, because he was holding his ankle, and some drivers you'll see have knee pads, but there's no such thing as the ankle pads. And I've known from experience, as we're going to actually get a replay now coming up into Spirit. Is he going to go down the inside? Oh, that's Colapinto. He's gone down the inside of Colapinto, who's actually slowed down much more than I think he thought he was, and he's almost a little bit avoiding action.
Well, Colapinto on the run to Spoon, the Haas is much faster on the approach behind the Alpine, but Colapinto almost starts to steer right as that's the way the track curves, but then he's moving further to the left at the same time, which is where Behrman has been aiming for on that bit of track. And I don't know if that's just a case of overspeed from Behrman in the Haas, or if Colapinto has moved a bit late there and hasn't properly looked in his mirror as to where the Haas car is, and that's what's caused Behrman then to take avoiding action onto the grass, hit the polystyrene bollards, lose control of his Haas, and spear into the wall on the exit.
I think it's hard to put blame on Colapinto there. With the mirrors so small, he's not going to know the overspeed.
But look, these last 2 races.
George, see what you can do from here. Yeah, super lucky.
I mean, I have to agree. That is hugely unlucky. That, not going to jinx it, but potentially gifted Antonelli the win there, because he's on the much fresher tyres. He's ahead now, leading this Grand Prix ahead of Piastri and Russell. But back to the incident, I don't think you can fully put the blame really on Colapinto. The overspeed was so great. Again, deployment, harvesting, all in different places. It's hard to take a gauge with the such small mirrors as well. And yes, Colapinto was starting to drift, but there wasn't an erratic movement. He was almost just sort of in the middle of the road, really, and then up to the back of him was Behrman, and I think it just caught him off guard, the speed of the Alpine. And then once you're on that grass, you're pretty much a passenger, and off he went into the barrier.
Well, the medical car has arrived on the scene for Ollie Behrman, who gets into it and will be taken to the medical centre for checks as the marshals get underway with clearing that Haas and repairing a bit of the barrier. So could see still maybe a lap or two under this safety car, which has massively benefited Kimi Antonelli, who started on pole position, but a poor start, and he absolutely dropped like a stone all the way back to around 6th position. George Russell, who was alongside him on the grid, didn't get as good a start either and dropped positions too, but the safety car really benefiting Antonelli, who hadn't pitted and managed to save time in doing so. Oscar Piastri made a great start from 3rd on the grid and has led the majority of this race so far, now in 2nd, having paid the price for an earlier pit stop. But is still in with a chance, has shown great pace so far. George Russell, you heard him lamenting on the radio there, pitted just before the safety car came out. Really unlucky, bad timing from Russell, who has still recovered from that poor start. He's up into third. Hamilton's done well under the pit stop. He was really in a bit of no man's land at the start of this race and has worked his way up ahead of Charles Leclerc, who he was behind. Hamilton fourth, Leclerc in fifth, Norris down to sixth. Pierre Gasly didn't really manage to make a huge amount of benefit under that safety car, but is holding on to seventh place. Verstappen pitting under the safety car in eighth. Liam Lawson is one of the big benefactors, up inside the top 10, with Gabby Bortoletto back inside the top 10, the Audi driver having started there and also plummeted to the bottom of the pack. So the safety car helping out a mix of drivers here. That's the top 10. Those are your point scorers. Outside it, Ocon is 11th, Hulkenberg 12th, Hadjar down to 13th, and Lindblad, two of the big losers there. They were battling on the cusp of the points. Sainz 15th, ahead of Colapinto. Then it's Albon, Perez, Stroll, Alonso and Bottas, the 21 drivers that remain in the field, with Ollie Behrman now out of this race, having had a big crash going into Spoon Curve. And we're about to get another look at it, Alice. And he really does carry a lot of speed. He's following Colapinto, who does slow down. He does a bit of harvesting going into the corner, and it's the last move slightly to the left for me, where it just looks like it's wrong place, wrong time maybe for Behrman. Or now you've had another look at it, are you still thinking your same thoughts, that it's just a bit of a race incident?
I'm trying to think of it from Colapinto's point of view. It's the overspeed, judging the overspeed, which again is something that they're not used to in Formula One. And he does kind of just drift. There's no erratic movement of his car. I think he knows that Behrman's coming. He's obviously had Behrman behind him for the last few laps, so he knows where he's a bit stronger than him, or maybe deploying a little bit more than him. There's no erratic change of direction. Of course the stewards are going to have a look at it, but I can imagine the drivers are going to say, well, you know, this is the regulations we're having to deal with. This is the things you're going to be having, with the difference and the overspeed. And of course Behrman wanted to seize the opportunity and didn't expect the Alpine to be going as slowly there, and then for him to kind of just be in the middle of the road. So I don't think a penalty is deserved for Colapinto, but I'm not the steward.
Well, nothing's come up yet on race control. They're too busy trying to clear up that debris down at turn 13, but Behrman out of the car in the medical car and off to get some checks. Lap 25 of 53 then, under safety car conditions. Antonelli leads Piastri, Russell, Hamilton and Charles Leclerc the top five, with Norris, Gasly, Verstappen, Lawson and Bortoletto your point scorers. This is 5 Live F1. You're listening to coverage of the third race of the season. It's the Japanese Grand Prix, but your latest sports headlines coming into today are British boxer Moses Atoma beat Jermaine Franklin in their heavyweight bout in Manchester. He knocked the American out cold in the 5th round with an uppercut. The 21-year-old is now unbeaten in 14 professional fights and is the first boxer to stop the American. Scotland's latest World Cup warm-up match ended up a 1-0 defeat to Japan. There were boos at full time at Hampden Park, and head coach Steve Clarke says he will be making 6 to 7 changes for Tuesday's friendly against Ivory Coast. Manchester City are 11 points clear at the top of the Women's Super League. It's after a 3-0 win over their rivals Manchester United. Alessia Russo scored a first WSL hat-trick at Arsenal, moved second, beating Tottenham 5-2. Liverpool women also beat Everton 3-2. And Northampton Saints reinforced their position at the top of Rugby Union's Prem with a 21 points to 17 win over Saracens. It came after Leicester won away at Gloucester 36-17. Harlequins ended a 6-game losing streak with an 18-14 win over Bristol. Those are your latest sports headlines coming in to Sunday here on 5 Live. It's Harry Benjamin up with you in the commentary box. Alongside me is the British racer Alice Powell, and our eyes and ears on the ground is Jenny Gow.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just at the back of the paddock at the moment by the medical centre where Oliver Bearman has been taken. He got out the car and was into the medical centre. They have a helicopter here just outside the medical centre, which is a doctor heli. So if they needed to take him to hospital, they have a clear route because the roads here aren't great. But at the moment, I think we're just a couple of us here just waiting and hoping for some good news on Ollie. But it was a hard impact, and obviously he limped out of the car. So no more running for Oliver Bearman at the minute, and as soon as we get an update we will update you.
Thanks, Jenny. Here's George Russell's radio.
Any confirms Kimmy's going to go in the place that we trained? Not sure, George.
Can you confirm Kimi is going in the place that we trained?
That's not off to the gym. That's basically, is he going to go? Is he going to be released? So when the safety car comes to the pits, is he going to put his foot down and make the break? In the places that they've discussed, well, who knows? And that's a tough question for his engineer to answer, because it's totally down to Kimi Antonelli when the safety car comes in for him to go. Obviously, it sounds like it's been a discussion down at Mercedes, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And so will George Russell. It sounds a little bit of frustration, though, in George's voice, rightly so. But we've seen this plenty of times in Formula One. We will see it again. Just the luck of the safety car, and that has worked at the moment into Antonelli's favour. And we are getting the sign on our timing screen that the safety car is going to be ending.
We're going to get back to green flag running. Russell equally frustrated because he knows that if he finishes where he is right now in third, if Kimi Antonelli wins this race, Antonelli takes the lead in the Drivers' Championship. And yes, we're only 3 races into this Formula One season, but it's becoming clear that the two Mercedes are the fastest cars out there in race trim, are dominant. And Russell now, seeing Antonelli with that victory in China, how quick he's been all weekend long in Japan, he knows it's not going to be a walk for George Russell with his experience. He's got the young buck of Antonelli with all that Mercedes hype around him, challenging. And Russell knows that he needs to lay a marker down.
He does, but it's still early in the season. There will be a time, I can guarantee it, during the season where Antonelli will get a little bit of bad luck as well. You can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty certain of it. And George Russell just needs to sort of stay calm at the moment. Needs to try and pick off Piastri pretty much. He has got fresher tyres as Antonelli's desperately weaving left to right to just generate some tyre temperature. So 130 are now. I'll be shocked if he goes now, but we've seen stranger things. I'm expecting he'll go on the exit of the chicane.
He's gone now.
And now he's gone on the entry of the chicane.
And he speeds up, slows down for the braking zone. Piastri tries to stick with him, but Piastri not as good out of the chicane and loses a huge chunk of time. Antonelli then on lap 28 of 53 with a good restart under the safety car. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton is all over the back of George Russell. Russell loses the position going into turn 1. Hamilton makes hay while the sun shines in Suzuka and sweeps round the outside of turn 1 and makes himself known inside that top 3. It's Antonelli, Piastri, Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc, the top 5.
Verstappen tried to go around the outside of Gasly, and the door was firmly closed. He's going to have a nil look further up the hill into turn 6, unable to get past the Alpine. But George Russell struggling on the throttle again on the exit of that chicane, and his afternoon is getting slightly worse, allowing Lewis Hamilton, remember, who again is on fresher hard tyres. Another benefit for him boxing under safety car. But he's off now. It's Hamilton. He's made a gap already, and he's looking to charge down Oscar Piastri.
And is this all Kimi Antonelli needed as well? Clear air out in front, and crucially, control of the pace. Can run his own race now he's out in front, can deploy the energy where he wants to, can recharge his battery where he wants to in the most efficient places for that Mercedes power unit. Has Piastri's hope of a win here this afternoon been scuppered by that safety car? He's fallen 1.4 seconds behind Kimi Antonelli in the lap we've now completed since we've got back to green flag racing. It's Antonelli, Piastri, Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc, the top 5. Norris holds 6 with Gasly in 7th, but Max Verstappen's all over the back of him. Then comes Lawson and Bortoletto. They round out the point scorers. That's your top 10. Ocon, Hulkenberg, Hadjar, Lindblad, Sainz are the top 15. Then it's Colapinto, Albon, Perez, Stroll and Alonso, with Bottas 21st and last. Behrman's out of this one, having had that crash into Spoon.
So last time round, Kimi Antonelli 7/10 of a second quicker than Oscar Piastri. Fastest lap of the race he's just set as well. Lewis Hamilton's enjoying this fresher set of tyres compared to those around him as well. Remember, he struggled a little bit at the start of the race. There's a huge slide on the exit of the second part of the Degners from Oscar Piastri. That's certainly going to damage the surface of his tyre. But we saw Lewis, we thought, well, maybe he was struggling. I think actually he was just looking after his medium tyre at that start of that race. So the wise head of Lewis Hamilton, will that be coming into play? Will that be crossing his mind at this stage of the race, as George Russell now is broken away slightly from Charles Leclerc and starting to close back down that gap to Lewis Hamilton?
As we head towards 130R, Kimi Antonelli leads the way 7/10 of a second to Oscar Piastri behind, so he will be within range for overtake mode when it's enabled down that start-finish straight, as Max Verstappen, with a huge amount of speed out of 130R, takes to the outside coming into the chicane, trying to get through his old teammate Pierre Gasly, now at Alpine, lines him up coming out of the final corner, and Gasly though just pulls away down the start-finish straight in that Alpine. Decent straight line speed from that pink and blue Enstone based car. 7th place held for Gasly, 8th place for Verstappen. Antonelli though out in front, extending the gap to just over now 1.8 seconds. Then Piastri, who has got a fight on his hands with Hamilton and Russell tucked in behind along with Charles Leclerc.
So gap staying fairly even at the moment. Gap at the front 1.8. Antonelli setting another fastest first sector, seems fully in control. Oscar's now dipped into the 133s and 133.6, so pretty much everyone out there at the moment setting personal bests. Hadjar's made his way forward as well. He's got past Hulkenberg, another driver that was Hadjar that missed out in the stops. But George Russell seems to have calmed down a little bit, settled down again into this race. It's so easy to let the frustration take over, and we've heard him disappointed on the radio, but he just needs to settle it down. Lewis Hamilton is on the radio complaining of Oscar Piastri doing track limits, so we'll keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, and that incident involving Colapinto and Behrman has been noted down at turn 13, the reason for the safety car, with Behrman taking to the grass and crashing into the wall. We'll see if the stewards look at that one, and they already have. It's been reviewed. No further investigation on that front.
Yeah, I again have to agree, it's also not really a place that you often overtake on the entry into Spoon, so that'll be considered as well, but yeah, I think that's the correct decision.
Wrong place, wrong time for Ollie Behrman, sadly out of this race, having been 5th in the Drivers' Championship coming into this weekend. Right, lap 31 of 53. Let's head down to Jenny Gao.
Lance Stroll and the Aston Martin has just pitted for the 3rd time. They have a problem, it's just been reported, so don't think we'll see them back out again, but 31 laps done, that's decent for Aston Martin. Just to update you, the medium tyre, which Bottas and Alonso are on, and Stroll, is working better than the hard, so better than expected. Most of the field on hards though.
Yeah, Alonso down in 19th on that medium tyre. He's ahead of Bottas, who will become 20th and the last runner in this Grand Prix. A further 12 seconds behind as Lance Stroll's Aston Martin is wheeled into the garage. Aston Martin with the Honda power unit at Honda's home race at the track they own. And it's been another tough weekend for them. But after this Grand Prix, we have a 5-week gap until we head to the next race in Miami. So time then for everybody to have a little think, a reset, crucial simulator work, and try and find those incremental gains.
Yeah, you mentioned simulator. That'll be running pretty much daily, I expect, and this gap the teams will just continue to work just as hard back in the factory to the drawing board, particularly for the likes of Aston Martin, who are just having a shocker start to the season, particularly when you got a new team like Cadillac that coming in and well, ahead of them. It's a tough one to take, and Alonso's still out there at the moment, completed 32 laps. He'll be hoping to try and make it to the end of the race, but we know that there's a lot of woes, a lot of issues for Aston Martin.
Certainly are. Down to 20 runners then, by the looks of things. Lap 32 of 53. Antonelli leads by over 3 seconds now to Oscar Piastri. Lewis Hamilton third, Russell and Leclerc the top 5. We have lost Lance Stroll, who has just boxed to retire, and Ollie Behrman, after hitting the turn 13 barriers on lap 22, avoiding Franco Colapinto's Alpine, and looked rather winded after that one, was limping out of the car, and we last saw him into the medical car and off for checks. Jenny, can you bring us any more news on Behrman?
Yes, I can. He's now in the medical centre at Suzuka, which is a very good medical centre. The impact was 50G, so a really big impact. He's had an X-ray in the medical centre. There is no fracture, which is good. A right knee contusion following the impact. He is alert and communicating, which is good news, because it was a big impact. And I'm sure he'll stay in the medical centre for the time being, just being observed, making sure there's nothing going on.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, that's really good to hear. It was good seeing Ollie Behrman out of the car and communicating with the marshals pretty much straight away. But yeah, taking a rather hefty hit in that Haas. But great to hear that he will be able to be dismissed from the medical centre shortly. Further back in the pack, Nico Hülkenberg in the Audi is watching the Red Bull, or the Racing Bulls, of Liam Lindblad, I should say. He's just got ahead of Lindblad, who ran wide and cut the chicane a lap ago at the final corner, and Hülkenberg then getting through. Hülkenberg now behind Hadjar in the Red Bull, and even though Lindblad was running up inside the top 10, rather done over by the safety car, but his loss is his teammate's gain. Liam Lawson has worked his way up into the points now, sitting in P9, but he's got Esteban Ocon for company.
Yeah, and it sounds like for Behrman, knees have clashed as well, so there is padding in the tub. But of course, when there's no padding, like I said, some drivers run knee pads. I don't think Ollie Behrman does, and they've clearly just come together when he's hit into the side of the barrier with that 50G impact. He was also holding his ankle as well when he was sitting on the floor. So sounds like bone-to-bone impact. So that's going to feel horrible. Will feel sore, but he has got plenty of time to rest up for the next Grand Prix. And Hadjar now is all over the back of Bortoletto at the chicane. The Audi Scarpa's up the road, but deployment, he's having to harvest. You see the light flashing on the back of Bortoletto's car. Hadjar not quite close enough though, Harry, to make the move down into turn 1.
No, that fight over 11th and 12th. Why would you not wear knee pads?
Comfort. So it's sometimes just uncomfortable having the knee pads there. Some drivers just prefer not to wear them. So driver preference, really.
Well, lap 34 of 53. Kimi Antonelli now, with the aid of the safety car, pitting under safety car conditions, halving his time lost under pit lane, has started on pole, and despite losing the lead before turn 1, has now got himself back up into the Grand Prix lead by 4.3 seconds over Oscar Piastri, who was doing such a great job. Piastri keeping Hamilton at bay by about a second or so in third. Russell still there, but not able to find a way through. Frustrated is the British driver. Leclerc also in that gaggle. It's a four-way fight for second, but no one making any big lunges yet. Then it's a couple of seconds back to Lando Norris in 6th and Gasly in 7th, who's still got Verstappen all over the back of him, but the Dutchman can't make a way through on the Alpine. Lawson is ahead of Esteban Ocon in 9th and 10th, and that's what rounds out the point scorers. Bortoletto is just about holding on to 11th, but once again, coming into the final chicane, Hadjar has a look. Bortoletto places that Audi in the right place and then just has the legs slightly down the start-finish straight, and Hadjar has a look, but the apex comes too quickly for the Frenchman in the Red Bull, and he has to back out of it, but maybe another lap for Hadjar needed to nick that 11th spot away from the Brazilian ahead of him.
Hamilton is, looks like, at least from the outboard shot anyway, that he might be struggling on that hard tyre. We saw him have a kick of oversteer on the exit of turn 9, the second part of the Degners, and he's had another one going up through the S's as well in the first part of the lap. So that's allowing George Russell, 6/10 is the gap now. You can just hear him bleeding off the throttle, getting that recharge. Partial throttle as he goes through the second part of Spoon. Overtake open, using some of the battery to storm up to the back of Lewis Hamilton. And then front and rear wing shuts. And it seems to be where the Mercedes is much stronger than the Ferrari. Again, using more deployment. That's this final part of the lap, which then allows the Ferrari to maybe have a little bit more on this front straight. But George Russell, is he going to be close enough?
Oh, he has a little look. That forces Hamilton to defend going into turn 1. Right at the end of the start-finish straight. A little bit of a dummy there from George Russell just to upset Lewis Hamilton, but Hamilton holds on to third, and then it's a fast-flowing first sector as Hadjar finally gets through on Gabriel Bortoleto, sweeps round the outside of the Brazilian into turn 1. Those two fighting for the Formula 2 World Championship a couple of years ago. Bortoleto winning that one out, but on track today, Hadjar finally through on the Audi and up inside the points.
Hamilton close to the track limit edge there on the exit of turn 9. I think he really is scrabbling for grip, and George Russell getting the rear stepping out on the exit of the hairpin there, and that's allowed Leclerc to come slightly closer as well. Norris, actually, he's dropped off the back of this scrap. He's 2.7 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Antonelli fully in control out front. 5.5 seconds is the gap now, so easy to maintain and keep up the pace. And just having a look, 0.6 of a second was the gap between Piastri and Antonelli last time round. You can just hear the onboard of Hamilton just bleeding out of the throttle as he goes down into the final chicane. And have a look, is George Russell going to be close enough this time round? He storms up to the back of Hamilton, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Nope, and it certainly isn't. So he has to change tactics and go again.
The straight not long enough for George Russell. That 37.53, and his teammate is doing everything he needs to do out front. Kimi Antonelli, 5.7 seconds, has this under control. That's the gap he has over Oscar Piastri in second, who's keeping Hamilton at bay, who's keeping Russell at bay just, and they're bringing Charles Leclerc along for the ride. Second, third, fourth and fifth, all within a couple of car lengths of each other. Norris is sixth, kind of on his own really, running his own race. Gasly doing another great job for Alpine in seventh, keeping Max Verstappen behind him. Liam Lawson looking to take another point score in the early stages of this Formula 1 season. Liam Lawson, who picked up 7th place in China and looking to try and convert that into 9th place this afternoon in Suzuka. But Esteban Ocon will be hoping that he can pip him, or indeed at least score his first points of the year. The sole remaining Haas, Esteban Ocon, hasn't troubled the points yet. His teammate was sitting up in 5th in the Drivers' Championship coming into this race. Ocon at the moment holding on to the final points paying position in 10th.
He is, and I think with Lance Stroll it was a suspected water pressure issue for him, which has made him retire. And is this going to be George Russell slightly closer to the back? No, actually it's Charles Leclerc. I've totally missed that while reading the Aston Martin update, but it looks like Russell, is he going to make his way past? No, he doesn't.
No, can't do it. Russell down to 5th, Charles Leclerc in 4th, and holding it up through the S's. The frustration continues for George Russell. His teammate leads the way now, almost 6.5 seconds clear from Oscar Piastri. Hamilton in 3rd, Leclerc 4th, Russell 5th, Lando Norris in 6th. But for George Russell, out through the second Degner, can't quite close up. The two Ferraris are just ahead of him as we head Downhill, off camber, through the left-hander at the hairpin. Russell looking good on the exit, but Charles Leclerc now firmly chasing down Lewis Hamilton next. A second between the two Ferraris, and it's decreasing.
What's going on with Russell? He was all over the back of Hamilton. I don't know if he's made a mistake somewhere along the lap, so we're going to catch a replay now.
I think he just suddenly slows on the way to Spoon.
Yeah, massively
almost
slows.
Gets out of the way of him.
I mean, yeah, that seemed a bit odd, and that's about Charles Leclerc is now all over the back of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. So I wonder how this tactic is going to be played between the two Ferraris, because it's very clear that Leclerc is the faster of the two. He's just set the fastest middle sector of anybody on track as well. And last time round, 0.3 of a second faster than his teammate. Well, that was very odd from George Russell, unless it was some kind of car issue. Now he's all on the back of Charles Leclerc.
How bizarre. Russell then losing that spot and down to 5th behind the two Ferraris, and it continues round for another lap. George Russell, who started this race on the front row in second, got a poor start, but not as bad as his teammate Antonelli's. But for both Mercedes, then worked their way back up into the lead once others pitted. And it was Russell, and it felt like suddenly the race was coming to him. He pitted in a battle with Oscar Piastri for the lead and the win, but the safety car for Oliver Behrman's Haas rather scuppered that for George Russell, having pitted just before it came out. It massively benefited his teammate Kimi Antonelli, who had yet to pit. When you pit under a safety car, because the field is neutralised and going slow around the track, your pit loss is almost halved. And that is what has allowed Antonelli back up into the lead with 7.7 seconds of a gap over Oscar Piastri in second. Hamilton was a better factor underneath the safety car and up into third. Leclerc behind him in fourth, and Russell, who lost out under the safety car and is losing lap after lap, having just slowed going into Spoon, really hugging the inside of that corner for no obvious reason, a sudden loss of power, and that's all Charles Leclerc needed to say thank you very much, I'll take that fourth place from you, no problem.
I mean, maybe there's some battery issue. You've not heard any radio from George Russell. Something didn't seem right. That wasn't just George being like, oh, do you know what? I've had enough of staring at the back of Lewis Hamilton. I'm going to stare at the back of Leclerc instead. Yeah, that seems something we'll find out at some point in the future. But Charles Leclerc, I wonder if he's going to be on the radio at any point and say, look, let me go after Piastri. He clearly is the faster of the two Ferraris as Hamilton gets a kick of oversteer. We ride on board with him now on the exit of turn 11, the hairpin. He's going to come into Spoon where we saw George Russell have that almost, like I say, loss of power heading into there, but they are starting to catch Piastri.
We are losing a bit of time for your info.
Copy that, Charles.
And right on cue, that's basically saying, get my teammate out of the way, I'm faster, we're losing some time.
Ooh, we're going to see some wheel-to-wheel racing again from the two Ferraris. Hamilton's slow on the entry into the final chicane. That allows Charles Leclerc to almost get a wing alongside him. Just backs out of it as the track starts to narrow. But down the start-finish straight we go. Lap 41 of 53 into the closing stages. And Charles Leclerc really closes up onto the back of his teammate. Hamilton defends going into turn one. But Leclerc looking quicker, looking more comfortable. The two Ferraris here having a nice dice, but they will have to be wary that they've got Mercedes and George Russell right behind, ready to make hay on any mistakes the two Ferraris do. It's almost a repeat of China with the two Ferraris battling ahead of Russell.
Yeah, and that's allowed Piastri to gain half a second on that lap. With these two squabbling as George Russell, I mean, would have been so brave
to
chuck
Degner one
down the inside into Degner 1 at turn 8. Would be hugely brave. Not a place that you would send one down the inside. But Hamilton was fully defending from his teammate there. And actually, hello, Lando Norris. Where did he come from? He was 2.7 seconds behind. He's now closed that gap right down. So he's going to possibly join this battle as well. But seems like Ferrari aren't too bothered about charging down to go for Piastri. They're quite happy for their drivers to have this scrap for the final podium position.
Yes, and George Russell will be hoping that these two Ferraris trip over each other once again. Coming into the final chicane, Charles Leclerc gets so close, front right to rear left for Hamilton. Hamilton slower out of 130R. Leclerc carries so much more speed, but then round the final corner, Leclerc's Ferrari just has a little snap, but it's still better than Hamilton in a straight line. Hamilton moves to defence, sweeping round the outside. Charles Leclerc into turn 1 and 2. There looks like there's almost contact, but they play fair. And what a move by Charles Leclerc. Hamilton not giving an inch. Respectful racing from the two Ferrari teammates as the battle is won, and Leclerc gets third and the final space on the podium.
How close was that to contact? That was so close to Lewis Hamilton's front wing, just clipping the rear of Charles Leclerc, which again could have sent him spinning, given him a puncture. You say respectful, I think, well, it was, but I'm not sure they wanted it to be that close. So that set Charles Leclerc away now, but the gap, 2.5 seconds between him and Oscar Piastri. Hamilton's fallen now into the clutches of George Russell. Norris is 0.7 of a second between himself and Russell. So I expect this battle to continue on, but that was a bit too close for comfort, I think, between the Ferraris.
I'd like to see an onboard from Lewis Hamilton's perspective, just how close that really was, as we watching it off-board from the offset angle, but it's worked for Charles Leclerc, who's up into third. Hamilton trying to stick with him, but already falling back. Just Hamilton, his deployment or recharge out of 130R really leaves him vulnerable. Coming around the final corner and onto that start-finish straight, which is where we are now on lap 43 of 53, as George Russell will be looking to tackle the Ferrari driver, and once again Hamilton moves to the inside and Russell makes it look easy and copies Leclerc from a lap ago, sweeps round the outside. Hamilton with the red lights flashing on the back of his Ferrari, showcasing that he is harvesting energy and losing out as a result, with Russell sweeping round the outside and getting it up into fourth.
Hamilton, remember, is on the freshest set of tyres out of all of these drivers. But I wonder if he just took a little bit too much out of him when he went on that attack when the safety car came in, because we've seen for the last few laps that he's had the rear kicking out. So Lando Norris is next to try and attack Lewis Hamilton. 0.7 of the second is the gap between those two drivers. And does this mean now Russell can go on the attack of Charles Leclerc? Charles Leclerc has closed the gap down to Piastri, so seems like the battle for the order of the podium is not over yet. It certainly looks like it's in the bag for Antonelli, but not in the bag second place, is it, for Oscar Piastri?
No, that gap up to nearly 11 seconds now between Antonelli, who leads this Grand Prix, ahead of Oscar Piastri. Charles Leclerc now third, with Russell released from behind Hamilton and a second away from Leclerc's third place. Hamilton fifth, with Lando Norris closing in on him now. Lando Norris, who's we haven't seen much of, but I think will be quietly happy with his run so far. He'll be wanting more, but for a man who's barely gotten any laps in this weekend with reliability issues, really rearing ahead on particularly his power unit. Currently sixth and staring down the back of Lewis Hamilton's fifth place. Gasly running well in seventh. Verstappen still in eighth. Lawson's holding on to 2 points in ninth and keeping Ocon at bay in 10th. Hadjar outside of the points in 11th, with Hülkenberg actually hunting him down in the Audi down the start-finish straight. Bortoletto in the other Audi is 13th. Then it's Lindblad and Sainz, the top 15. Colapinto sits 16th ahead of Albon, with the Cadillac of Perez in 18th. Alonso's Aston Martin still running out there. This must be the most amount of laps Alonso's done so far in a Grand Prix. Down in 19th, with Valtteri Bottas bringing up the rear of the field in 20th in the other Cadillac. Stroll's out of this one after a suspected water leak, and Ollie Behrman crashing out at Spoon Curve. Rather big incident for him, had to be taken to the medical centre, limping on the way to the medical car, but he has been seen and been cleared, but left a little winded on that front. So we're down to 20 cars in this Grand Prix, which after the first two races is actually pretty good going.
Yeah, it certainly is. Alonso being able to withstand the vibrations of his Aston Martin so far. George Russell now has had a really, really solid sector in this lap. He's now closed the gap to the back of Charles Leclerc. Fastest middle sector overall in the race for Leclerc, but Russell is 0.3 quicker on this lap round, so he's had a really strong last sector. So they are both closing into the back of Piastri, but probably not as quickly as they would have liked.
Well, let's get a Mercedes update and head down to Jenny.
Yes, I spoke to the team about George Russell and said, has he got any issues with his car? And they were saying no, but he had an unexpected super clip that cost him the position to Leclerc.
An unexpected super clip as the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton locks up going into the final chicane and has to run deep, costing him time. So an unexpected super clip then. So that's recharging off, but the engine is on full load, so you're running it against the...
he needs to give the position. Hey, we're on it.
That was Lando Norris. He needs to give the position. That is referring to Lewis Hamilton running deep. So super clipping is when you're at full throttle, but part deploying and part harvesting. So the car looks like it's using full power, but part of that power is actually charging the battery. Unexpected for George Russell. Saw him slow down and cost him that position.
Yeah, so it was a hugely unexpected super clip. So you're right, yeah, harvesting energy, he's still going to be at full throttle, so it's not like he's lifting off. But this can all be changed with engine mapping as well, so potentially Mercedes might have been looking to maybe be like, okay, well, we don't want that to risk that happening again, so potentially would have changed the engine map, which they would have set out for different circuits as well. But it's not affecting him now because he's all over the back of Charles Leclerc. 0.4 of a second is the gap.
Yeah, George Russell fancies his final podium still. Should say Hamilton hasn't given a place back to Lando Norris, and that leaving the track and gaining an advantage incident at the final chicane has been noted for Lewis Hamilton. So we'll see if Ferrari tell him to give that back and avoid any kind of penalty, or if they believe they don't need to. Hulkenberg getting oh so close to Hadjar, coming up through the S's. Battle for 11th and 12th between the Red Bull and the Audi, with Ocon up the road in 10th.
Yeah, it was very close between the two drivers there, scrapping for grip. Bortoletto seems to have lost some pace during this race. He was looking fairly strong again. Could be similar to Hamilton, potentially taking a little bit too much out of his tyres at the restart on the safety car. Lindblad's not being able to make his way forward. His teammate benefiting from the safety car up in 9th is Lawson. But this is where we usually see the part of the circuit now going into the chicane where the Mercedes is slightly stronger, and then the Ferrari ends up deploying more battery on the start-finish straight as Charles Leclerc looks left and right in his mirrors to keep an eye on George Russell, who's not going to be close enough as they fly into turn 1.
Lap 47 of 53. Antonelli leads by over 13 seconds to Oscar Piastri's McLaren. The battle for third very much on here between Charles Leclerc's Ferrari and George Russell hunting him down in the other Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton losing positions down to 5th. Lando Norris in 6th. Pierre Gasly doing a magnificent job of fending off Max Verstappen. That gap between those two stayed to within about 0.6 to a second, ebbing and flowing over the last 10 or so laps. Liam Lawson, big benefactor under the safety car, up inside the top 9 with Ocon holding on to the final points paying position. Hulkenberg has got through on Hadjar. They've been having a nice fight over 11th place, and it might well be another 11th spot for Nico Hulkenberg. It's his favourite number, I think. Hadjar 12th, Bortoletto 13th, Lindblad signs the top 15, Colapinto is 16th ahead of Perez. Albon, who has just come into the pits for the 3rd time, might well be running some sort of testing session then, or is it an issue? We'll find out. Alonso in 19th, Bottas is in 20th, the last of the runners, with Stroll and Behrman out of this one, as Charles Leclerc has George Russell in his mirrors. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton had Lando Norris in his mirrors and now has Lando Norris ahead of him. Out of the final corner, nice move from Norris down the inside at the final chicane. Norris finally gets through on Hamilton, but will Hamilton fight back down the start-finish straight? Yes, he does, and gets through. Norris then back behind Hamilton as the two jostle for position. No further investigation on Hamilton leaving the track and gaining an advantage, so Norris can't be expecting the 7-time champ to be giving him any kind of position. Hamilton 5th, Norris 6th.
Yeah, that was easy stuff for Lewis Hamilton down the straight. So riding on board with Lando Norris, so they're going to fly through 130R, catching the replay. Hear the car scraping, touching on the ground. It bounces through 130R. So that was easy stuff for Norris, but then it was easy stuff for Lewis Hamilton to make the repass.
So Hamilton down to 5th, or Hamilton up to 5th, Norris down to 6th, Russell still behind the other Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, in their battle for the podium. Jenny.
Yes, good news. Oliver Behrman has come down to the Haas garage. He's just walked around shaking hands with some of his team, not limping as heavily as he was before. No break there. Big crash earlier on, 50G. But as I said, good news. He's back in with the team.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, great news. Behrman, who had a big crash at Spoon, avoiding a slow Franco Colapinto, forced to take to the grass and then losing control. And sounds like a case of knees very much knocking together and ankles coming together in the cockpit of his Haas. But good to hear he's back in the garage. We just need to look after the car and bring it home, is the message from Pete Bronnington to Kimi Antonelli with 5 laps to go. And it's not been an easy drive for Kimi Antonelli. Luck has played its part, but also he's clearly got the pace to do it when he's got the air to do it.
I mean, yeah, when a Mercedes is out front, it's the fastest car. Certainly he's had the luck, because the safety car could be timed perfectly for him. Otherwise, I don't think he would be in the lead of this race. I was just having a look. Leclerc was edging closer to the back of Piastri. It was a second, now it's 1.8. Piastri's responded. So last time round, Charles Leclerc set the fastest lap of the race for him, personal best. Piastri now has set the personal best in the first sector. So it sounds like these drivers have just sort of been saving tyres a little bit to the end. And so has Piastri, because I expect the team have been on the radio say, right, personal best coming in from Leclerc. And Oscar says, no problem, still got enough tyre life, got enough energy in the tank. And talk about Antonelli bringing it home, he's just set the fastest lap of the race.
He's having fun out there, isn't he? Kimi Antonelli, who could become the first Italian to win consecutive Grand Prix since Alberto Ascari back in 1953. I think the Italians have a new hero in Formula One. Don't tell Ferrari. With 4 laps to go. His teammate, though, George Russell, still pushing for that final podium slot as we get to turn 1 again, but the Ferrari of Leclerc still ahead. And Russell just having to bide his time, stay cool, calm and collected in the cockpit of that Mercedes. Russell, who started on the front row, poor start, lost positions and worked his way back up with a shot of the win at one point, then pitted, but 1 lap too soon. The safety car coming out for Behrman's Haas, scuppering all of his good work out on track to recover those positions, whilst his teammate Kimi Antonelli pitted at the perfect time and benefited hugely, jumping up the order to take the lead from Oscar Piastri.
Norris had that attack on Hamilton. It's half a second's the gap now, so hasn't been able to make his way back past. And Verstappen, fair play to Gasly, he's holding the Red Bull behind, still 7/10 the gap, which I think it's pretty much been for majority of the race, isn't it, between Verstappen and Gasly. So is George Russell going to be close enough? Certainly deploying more energy as he comes up, and he's going to have a look down the inside. Harry into the chicane. Is he going to make his stick? Yes, he does.
He does, under braking, and Russell gets through. Has Leclerc got anything to offer back down the start-finish straight? But they head round the final corner. It curves to the right, and with 3 laps to go, Russell is up and back into the podium positions, but does have to defend, takes to the inside line, and Charles Leclerc sweeps back round and through. What a move from Charles Leclerc. I thought the move was done, but the Monegasque says, no, I'm not losing this podium without a fight. Russell back down to 4th.
And Hamilton has done the exact same to Lando Norris. So Lando went down the inside at the chicane, and Hamilton's pretty much done the same move that Leclerc did on Russell and has gone round the outside of the McLaren driver. So swapping positions in these final stages of the race. They're going to have a lap car come into play. That is going to be Fernando Alonso. Hopefully he will, the blue flags are out already, so hopefully he'll be out of the way. But with a couple of laps left remaining, fights are still going on down the field.
Certainly are. Antonelli, Piastri, the top two. Leclerc holds on to 3rd ahead of Russell. Hamilton holds on to 5th ahead of Norris. Gasly is in 7th ahead of Verstappen. Lawson and Ocon, the top 10. They are your point scorers here in Suzuka. You're listening to 5 Live F1 and coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix, the last race before we have a 5-week gap due to the cancellations of Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Will next turn up in Miami in May. Hülkenberg is 11th ahead of Hadjar, Bortoletto, Lindblad and Sainz, the top 15. Colapinto is 16th ahead of Perez, Alonso, Bottas and Albon. The 20 drivers that remain in the field. Stroll's retired in the Aston Martin, Behrman crashing out in the Haas. 2 laps to go in Suzuka. And it's smooth sailing for one Mercedes right now. The other, in the form of George Russell, really being made to work hard to try and usurp the Ferrari ahead of him to claim a podium in Japan.
Now I think Lando Norris has made a move on Lewis Hamilton, has made it stick, as we saw in our tiny replay box. It looked like he made the move into the chicane, and we, of course, last time round Hamilton braved it round the outside. But I think this time Lando Norris has made it stick. 1 second the gap is going to edge towards now, as he's going to make the jump for it and escape down the road from Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen still all over the back of Pierre Gasly, and then it's a huge gap back, 17 seconds to be precise, between Liam Lawson and Max Verstappen. But yeah, Norris has certainly got a gap, 1.3 seconds now over Lewis Hamilton.
Antonelli heading towards the race win here and the lead of the championship. Oscar Piastri very comfortably sitting in 2nd, but George Russell with a late dive to the inside, perhaps at the final chicane, thinks about it. Leclerc has him covered. Round the final corner we go, down the start-finish straight one last time as we embark on the final lap of the Japanese Grand Prix. Leclerc holds 3rd. Can George Russell find a way through? Not even close going into turn 1.
No, nice fresh air riding on board with Kimi Antonelli. It's going to be down to the final chicane. I think George Russell, that's going to be his only opportunity, unless something else goes wrong for Charles Leclerc. That's going to be his opportunity. But Antonelli, okay, he's had some luck during this race, had a disaster start dropping down to 6th, but he's done everything he needed to do once he got into the lead, benefiting from that safety car. Fastest driver on tracks, fastest lap of the race, and easily at the moment 14.3 second gap back to Oscar Piastri.
Norris very much through on Hamilton now, that gap over 1 second for 5th and 6th place. But for Kimi Antonelli then, who is breezing down the backstretch towards 130R, the left-hander, with just the chicane to go, a right-hander followed by a left-hander. Antonelli, the 19-year-old Italian, 2 weeks ago, his first ever victory in Formula One. Today in Japan, it's back-to-back wins for Kimi Antonelli, who takes victory of the Japanese Grand Prix, and with it, the lead of the Formula One Championship. Oscar Piastri hasn't started a Grand Prix racing lap all year. Today, he finally completes 53 of them and finishes 2nd on the podium. Charles Leclerc holds off George Russell for the final spot of the podium in third, Russell fourth, Norris beats Hamilton to fifth, and Pierre Gasly, another top drive from the Frenchman in the Alpine, with Max Verstappen all over the back of him right to the flag, fends off his old teammate for seventh, Verstappen eighth, Lawson ninth, Ocon 10th.
Get in there, Kimi. Good effort, man. Good effort.
Yes, man. Woo! Let's go, man. Oh! I was lucky with the safety car, but pace was unbelievable at the end.
Yeah, pace was really good on that hard time, mate. But yeah, we definitely dodged a bullet today.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks to all the boys and girls in Brackley and Brixworth. What a car. Thank you so much.
Yeah, safe to say he did, but as he said there, pace was very good at the end, and it certainly was, and he had full control and a real solid drive from Antonelli, and he takes the lead of the championship.
He certainly does, by 9 points over George Russell. Good drive from this man, Oscar Piastri second.
Well done, Oscar. Checkered flag, great job. P2. Not think I'd be sat here frustrated that a safety car cost you a win, but that is a really phenomenal weekend. Amazing job.
Well, turns out when we start these things, we're pretty good. Well done, everybody. That was a great weekend. We've still got a bit of time to find, but well done, everybody. We deserve that, so thank you. And let's find some more pace, and we'll be doing this a hell of a lot more often. Thanks.
I'm with this engineer on that one. I think potentially we could have been staring, if with the safety car, Oscar Piastri, who's been voted by the fans as driver of the day, and I have to agree, he's done a real solid job. And because you've got to think he was up having that fight against George Russell. When we look at George Russell's pace at the end, he didn't have any, and it was full control for Piastri really throughout the race. And he, as we're just catching a replay of how Lando Norris got round Lewis Hamilton as these two had a great scrap. It was eventually, of course, Norris that came on top of the battle. But yeah, I think it was potentially could have been a win for Piastri, and a solid job by Charles Leclerc as well.
Bravo, Charles. Bravo.
Let's go. I wish it was for a win, but feels good. It was a tough race with a lucky safety car.
Yeah, that was a great drive.
Managed to hold on to that podium, did Charles Leclerc. First podium finish at Suzuka since 2022, and he holds on to third in the Drivers' Championship. But Kimi Antonelli's the man that pulls up in the P1 slot in Parc Fermé, and Jenny Gow's got eyes on him.
Yes, the Mercedes team are just coming alongside the barriers, and they're to my right-hand side. Kimi Antonelli, as you said, in his Mercedes, and he's just taking it all in. He said yesterday his second pole position consecutive was the best. It was better than the first. So will this win seem better than the first or not? That's the big question. So he just takes his safety device out, and he will in a moment stand up. He puts his hand on the halo to raise himself out of that cockpit. 53 laps around Suzuka, and Mercedes to my right and cheering. He raises a hand, his right hand. He does a Usain Bolt. Who knew that was coming? And he celebrates his win here at Suzuka. What a race. He said he was a bit lucky, but luck favours the brave, and he was brave this weekend.
Kimi Antonelli might have to start getting used to those winning celebrations.
Was that Usain Bolt?
And was that David Hill? I just heard in the background. It's David Hill. Someone's left the mic on, and Jenny's down there still.
Yeah, David's doing the interview, so he's getting ready, but Kimi Antonelli has just run forward right towards me and right by the Mercedes gang, and he was like a coiled cobra being released, and he ran so quickly, jumped on the mechanics and engineers that are around me. He's now taking his gloves off, but his overwhelming feeling is delight and joy. What a great performance by Kimi, and some of the team are in tears. So pleased are they for his win.
I personally can't wait for Damon to do the driver interview, so I'm very much looking forward to that.
I hope he asks why. Was that a Usain Bolt celebration?
Yeah, I hope that's the first question he asks. 30 years since Damon Hill took his World Championship in Suzuka. He will be asking the top 3 questions. We'll hear in a moment from Antonelli, from Oscar Piastri and from Charles Leclerc as they just unhook themselves from their helmets and take a glug of water, and then they'll be ushered over. We'll take you to near enough the top of the hour here on 5 Live before we hand you over to Laura McGee and Stefan Powell for Sunday breakfast. We'll also have the Checkered Flag podcast for you, where we'll debrief all of what we've seen today. You can listen to that on BBC Sounds. Just search F1, or for the first time you can watch our race review podcasts on iPlayer and YouTube, so make sure you have a look out for that. Meanwhile, Nico Hulkenberg looking rather bemused, having finished outside of the points, just in his favourite spot of P11 as the drivers all queue to be weighed and get their weight slip.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton, just reading his body language there, really disappointed, sort of chucked his headrest and his seatbelt clip back into the car. The only driver down there queuing to be weighed that's just sort of kept his helmet on. That's usually a sign of disappointment and frustration. And it was looking good. He was up there challenging for a podium in 3rd place, and then sort of lost the place to Russell, Leclerc, and then Norris eventually at the end. So he has every right to be disappointed and frustrated. He's not quite had the pace this weekend.
Well, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. It's the post-race interviews with Damon Hill.
Kimi Antonelli, congratulations. You are officially the youngest ever person to lead a Formula 1 World Championship. Do you have anything to say?
It feels pretty good. Of course, it's still early to think about the championship, but we're on the good way. Me in the race had a terrible start. Just need to check what happened, but then I was lucky with the safety car to be in the lead. But then the pace was just incredible, and it was really nice. Second stint, I felt very good with the car, and very pleased with that.
Yeah, because the man next to you, Oscar, there, he swamped you at the start. You made a bad start. You said to Toto, apparently you're going to practice your clutches.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I got 3 weeks, so now I can practice some clutch drops just to get a better feel with it, because definitely it's been a weak point so far this year, and I need to improve that, because you can easily win or lose races with that.
But you were working way back up through the field anyway, weren't you? And then you had the safety car came out, which really handed you the lead. But after that, you looked absolutely masterful, totally in control.
Yeah, I think obviously we were very lucky with the safety car, but on the medium we were really strong once I got some free air, and then on the hard the pace was just incredible. So I don't know what it would have happened, how the outcome would have been without the safety car, but definitely was made my life a lot easier.
I'll come back to you in a second. Oscar, you finally got a race in.
That we're all right once we get to the start.
Yeah, so, and at one time you were saying that you thought you were comfortable and you could possibly hang on to the position, but then you have the safety car.
Yeah, it would have been really interesting to see what would have happened without that. I think, I could keep George behind, and just before the stops we're actually pulling away a little bit again. So, a shame that we never got to see what would have happened, but I think for us at this point to be disappointed about finishing second is a pretty good place to be. So, massive thanks to the team. I think we did a really good job of executing with what we had. I think we clearly still need to find a bit of performance, but we took every opportunity we had today.
Well, it was closer anyway, wasn't it, than not even getting a race, but well done for that. And Charles, also fighting 3rd place. You had to do everything you could to hang on to it. You got a bit of pressure there from George at the end.
It was a bit of a sweaty one, this one. Obviously, with the safety car, we got a little bit unlucky. So from that moment onwards, I knew I was a little bit on the back foot, especially compared to Kimi and and Lewis, but then I was like, okay, let's keep pushing, let's try to keep those tires and bring them to the end. And actually it wasn't that as much of a disadvantage as I thought. The tires were actually pretty good. The few laps that I had done wasn't so bad. It's just that we lost few positions, and then it was quite a fun race, just not quite enough to get Oscar, but yeah, it was a cool race.
Well done. And Kimi, we've got a little bit of a gap. You're going to practice your clutches, but this is it. You've won in Suzuka, one of the great tracks on the. Have you got a few words to say for the Japanese fans?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy to have won in such a special track in front of these, amazing fans. I think driving and racing here is a unique experience, and really looking forward to come back next year. Arigato.
Well, Kimi, congratulations, and we'll be back in Miami in about, 4 or 5 weeks' time, I think it is.
Absolutely right, Damon Hill, 1996 F1 World Champion, and he will be with us in the commentary box, won't he? Damon Hill, 5 Lives Damon Hill there doing questioning. To Kimi Antonelli, your race winner, and Oscar Piastri in second, with Charles Leclerc in third. Could Oscar Piastri have won that race, Alice?
Yes, I think he could have. He was, even though he was on the radio fairly early on complaining about some graining on his front left tyre, he said, look, we can extend this. I'm pretty happy with the pace. And Antonelli was he down in about 5th place? I think he wasn't he? Down in 5th or 4th place, struggling to come through the field. And Russell was sort of struggling with pace towards the end of the Grand Prix there, and particularly compared to Piastri. So yeah, I think that McLaren are right in saying that they could have potentially won that Grand Prix. I have to agree with them, but they've got both cars have finished the race for the first time this year, and more importantly for Oscar, he's got a run of laps. He's gone from last in the championship up to 6th.
He certainly has, only a few points behind his teammates in the standings. Right, let's head back downstairs to Jenny Gap.
Kimi's race engineer Pete Bonington has joined me as we walk up towards the podium to get a taste of champagne and a little celebration. Pete, congratulations, that must feel good.
It's a bit of a relief. You saw the absolute mess we made at the start. So yeah, a little bit of practice required there on clutch drops for Kimi. But yeah, saved by the safety car. I mean, without it, I don't know. He has such great pace. I reckon we could have carved our way to the front again. But yeah, you don't know. But yeah, I think it was a very good learning experience for him, but a really great result. Yeah, he's got great pace. Just need to finish the final bit of polishing.
You've worked with some of the best. What is it about Kimi that makes him special? Just tell people at home.
It's that extra little bit that you can't teach. It's just a natural talent. I never used to believe in natural talent, but I think he has got that extra something. It's that just extra couple of tenths that any normal driver struggles to find.
I think when it comes to this battle, everyone wants it to be a good battle. It's beginning of a new regulation cycle. It's so much to be decided yet. But for the moment, you need to press home that advantage, I suppose.
Oh yeah, exactly. You've got to steal the march. It's a bit disappointing we're missing out on a couple of races because, whilst you've got a car advantage, you need to get as far forward as you can. But, it's a strong development race. It always is with new regulations. So hopefully we can just stay ahead of the curve. Depends what everyone else does.
Thank you so much, T. Go and celebrate. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Jen speaking with Pete Bonington there, Kimi Antonelli's race engineer. I mean, he's saying some pretty big things there, Alice, and only because, there's been so much doubt over Kimi Antonelli in his rookie year, and now it seems like he has well and truly arrived. But for Pete Bonington, who has worked with Michael Schumacher and was Lewis Hamilton's race engineer for his entire stint at Mercedes, to be saying those things about Kimi Antonelli, that he doesn't believe in natural talent, but now he does, and he has those few extra tenths over any other driver. Those are big words from somebody like Pete Bonington.
Yeah, and that any person would love to receive the drivers just sitting in the cool-down room having a chat. But no, they've known for a while. Clearly, they've had to put the trust in Kimi Antonelli, and it's paying off now.
Well, let's head back down to Jen.
Yeah, I'm here with Andrea Stella, the team principal of McLaren. You finished a race, good points, and Oscar Piastri made up for not finishing or starting the last 2 races with a podium. You must be delighted.
Yeah, it's a positive day. It's a positive day in which we confirm the progress that we saw yesterday in qualifying. We were able today to fight with Mercedes, or at least one of them. We were leading the race for a long part of it in the first stint, and it's a shame for the safety car timing. I'm not sure we could have won the race, but certainly we would have given it a go. Oscar drove extremely well, great start, first start of the season for Oscar, and but we knew that Oscar was doing very well. We saw how he was driving in practice, in qualifying, so he deserves it. He deserves it, and good result overall for the team.
Well, go and celebrate. Congratulations. Well done. See you in Miami.
Team principal of McLaren, Andrea Stella. Yeah, they're a really good solid race from Oscar Piastri in particular. I think a final word, Alice, on the Ferraris, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Again, they're not afraid to do wheel-to-wheel battle, are they, out there?
No, and I wonder if we're going to see at some point in the season that's going to go wrong for them. Who knows? Because it is very close. But no, Charles Leclerc seemed very pleased at the end there, snatching that final podium position. And a solid job by then. Lewis Hamilton, though, he'll be bitterly disappointed with that result, as we said, just lacking in pace over the course of the weekend.
Well, the podium ceremony is about to get underway with third place man Charles Leclerc in that Ferrari stepping out onto the third rung of the rostrum. Oscar Piastri in second, having not started a Grand Prix until a couple of hours to go this year, finally gets 53 under his belt and puts in second place. Could have been the win potentially, with Kimi Antonelli taking back-to-back victories in Formula One, and with it takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship. It's early stages in this season, but with 2 races lost in this gap coming up in April. We'll head to Miami next in May. Thank you to the whole team. Thank you for your company. We're going to go do the Checkered Flag podcast now on BBC Sounds. Just search F1 and you can find it on iPlayer and YouTube. Thank you to Alice Powell. Thank you to Jenny Gow. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Up next is Sunday Breakfast, but first, here's your latest BBC News.
The voice of the